Hey guys, tonight we drift softly into the world of the Templars. Those cloaked warriors of stone and shadow, their lives woven with the quiet rhythms of bread and broth under endless vaulted ceilings. The fire crackles low in the hearth embers glowing like distant stars. As we settle into the gentle cadence of a night's day measured not by clocks, but by the slow arc of the sun and the deepening pangs of hunger. Like and subscribe if these whispers through history lull you into peace. And drop a comment below, tell me where you're listening from tonight. And what time it is there in your corner of the world. Are you curled under blankets in Amsterdam? Or watching the dawn creep over ancient hills? Settle in now. Let your breath slow with the rising steam from iron cauldrons. As we follow one Templar Knight, call him Brother Elias, from the first pale light of dawn to the final emberlit sip before sleep claims him. No rush, no clamor, just the soft unfolding of a day sustained by pottage and prayer. As dawn breaks in the preceptory, a faint grey light filters through narrow arrow-slit windows, painting the stone floors in hues of mist and memory. Brother Elias stirs on his straw pallet, the air thick with the chill of night retreating. His white mantle, marked with the red cross, lies folded nearby. But for now, he rises in simple linen, feet padding softly over cold flags toward the chapel. Vespers have long faded, and Matins calls him first to prayer. But hunger already whispers at the edges of his thoughts. A knight's body, honed for mail and sword, demands fuel before the world awakens fully. The Templar rule, that ancient code etched by Bernard of Clairvaux's quill, binds their poverty like a vow of iron. No feasting for these warrior monks. 2 meals a day suffice, the lesser at dawn if labor presses, the greater at midday, meat thrice weekly, fish or cheese on others, and nothing on Fridays but bread and water. Such is the discipline that tempers flesh for crusade. Yet Elias feels the pull, his belly rumbling like distant thunder over Galilee plains. He makes his way to the refectory, where brothers gather in silence, hoods drawn, eyes on wooden trenchers. The dawn meal is spare, a ritual of restraint. A lay brother, ruddy-cheeked from half fires, portions out dense rye bread, baked the night before in clay ovens fed with olive wood from Holy Land groves. The crust yields with a faint crackle under the knife, steam whispering from its heart, carrying scents of fermented grain and earth. Beside it, a bowl of pottage oats simmered slow in water drawn from the preceptory well, thickened with leeks foraged from dew-kissed gardens. No salt yet. That's for the main meal. Elias dips his horn spoon, the wooden handle worn smooth by countless mornings, and savors the warmth sliding down, grains blooming soft on his tongue. Ale follows, small beer brewed from barley malted over peat fires, its yeasty tang a balm for the night's dryness. Not wine that's for the sick or pilgrims, but ale, deemed medicine by the rule, frothing gently in clay mugs stamped with the Templar seal. Imagine the kitchen beyond the refectory wall, alive in hushed rhythm even at this hour. The master cook, Brother Thomas, a former knight invalided by a Saracen arrow, stirs vast iron pots suspended on chains above glowing coals. Smoke curls upward, threading through rafters black with soot, carrying hints of herbs thyme plucked from cloister plots, rosemary twisted from wild bushes during marches. Templars forage as they travel, in Europe, from Normandy fields or Scottish moors, brothers gather wild garlic and nettles, pounding them into pastes for the road. In Agrimer, dates from pond groves sweeten the pot, imported on camel trains from Damascus markets. Though the rule frowns on excess poverty means no spices unless gifted by pious donors. Elias chews slowly, the breads chew yielding to a subtle sourness. Born of levain kept alive for generations in linen-wrapped dough starters. Historical chronicles whisper of such loaves. Jacques de Vitry noted Templar bread hard as stone, yet nourishing as manna, baked in communal ovens shared with villagers. A thread of charity in their vow. No butter here. That's a luxury for abbots, but on rare feast days. A dribble of olive oil from Provencal presses, golden and sharp. His meal ends with a silent prayer, grace murmured over folded hands, as the sun edges higher, gilding the cross on his mantle. The preceptory stirs. Horses whinny in stables, fed their own oats measured by the squire, mirroring the knight's portions. But as the sun climbs higher, casting long shadows across the cloister garth, the morning yields to labor polishing hauberks, drilling with squires, or copying charters by quillite. Hunger builds again, a patient companion, until the great bell tolls sext, summoning all to the midday feast. This is the heart of sustenance, the meal where nightly vigor is forged anew. Midday brings the main feast to the refectory, where long oak tables groan softly under white cloths laundered in rainwater streams. Brothers file in, mantles pristine, seating by rank. Knights at the high board, sergeants below, chaplains murmuring Latin graces. The air hums with anticipation, tempered by silence, no chatter. Only the scrape of benches and the distant clang of kitchen ladles. Brother Thomas and his undercooks emerge from steam-shrouded doors, bearing trenchers heaped with bounty restrained by rule. First, the bread-white wheaten loaves for knights, a nod to their noble blood, risen with yeast from monastery vats and baked till golden. The crust crackling like autumn leaves underfoot. Elias tears his portion, fibers pulling apart with a satisfying resistance, crumbs scattering like snow on the cloth. Beside it, salted pork or mutton, cured in barrels of brine from Atlantic coasts or Dead Sea evaporations, sliced thin, and simmered in pottage with onions bulbous and sweet, carrots pulled from sandy preceptory soils. The rule permits meat thrice a week: Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday boiled plain. No roasting that savors fat too richly. Steam rises in lazy spirals, carrying the deep umami of rendered juices mingling with barley. The pot bubbling hours over applewood fires that perfume the whole with faint smoke. On fish days, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, the fare shifts to cod or herring salted and barreled from Baltic fleets, flaking tender under the knife. Paired with peas pottage, yellow peas, simmered till creamy, flecked with parsley from herb gardens. Tended by novices. Elias spears a morsel, the salt blooming sharp on his palate, chasing it with ale stronger now. At 3% ABV, its malty depth easing the brine. Chronicles from the era, like those of William of Tyre, describe Templar feasts during sieges. When Acre fell under Saladin's shadow knights supped on new meat, disguised as beef pottage stretched with acorns ground fine, hunger pangs dulled by prayer. Sourcing weaves through their world like a tapestry thread. European preceptories draw from Demesne farms wheat from Champagne plains, cheese from Auvergne goats, wheels veined blue and sharp. In the Levant, Venetian galleys unload rice from Egypt, figs plump as jewels, traded for protection on pilgrim routes. The rule mandates poverty, yet practicality reigns. Knights need 4,000 calories daily for mail-clad marches, far beyond a monk's meager ration. Quirky facts emerge from the Latin rule. No eating between meals, lest gluttony creep in. Superiors taste first, ensuring no poison from envious foes. Subtle humor lingers. Imagine a knight, sworn to chastity and poverty, craving a haunch of venison denied by vow, while peasants outside feast on rabbit stew. The kitchen hierarchy unfolds in sensory detail. Under Thomas, the pantler guards the bread ovens, slapping dough onto peels slick with flour dust that hangs like mist. The butler oversees ale casks, wooden taps dripping amber into pitchers. Foraging tales abound. During the Second Crusade, Templars gleaned wild lentils from Anatolian hills, pounding them into flatbreads cooked on shields over campfires, embers spitting like stars. Pilgrim feasts add variety to noble donors gift capons fattened on grain, plucked and boiled with sage. The broth cloudy and restorative. Elias savors it all methodically, the chew of meat yielding to tendons snap, juices pooling warm, washing it down with ale that warms from within, a liquid hearth against crusade chills. Dessert, rare handful of almonds or dried apples from orchard windfalls, chewed slow till sweetness lingers. The meal closes with Compline grace, brothers rising as one, trenchers scraped clean for the poor at the gate of final vows echo. With shadows lengthening over the refectory, afternoon drifts into quieter pursuits, scriptorium toil, stable mucking, or patrols along pilgrim paths where dust rises soft under hoof. No formal meal interrupts, but collation sustains a slice of bread, cheese rind, or ale sip from a flask, permitted for labourers. Elias sips his, the cheese creamy from ewes milked at dawn, rind earthy as the fields it grazed. Evening rations under candlelight mark the day's winding down, as vespers fade and stars prick the sky. The refectory glows with tallow dips, flames dancing shadows on whitewashed walls. Portions mirror midday, but lighter. Bread, pottage thinned with vegetables, perhaps bacon ends on meat days. Fish again if Friday, its oils slick and sustaining. Elias eats by flickering light, spoon scraping bowls curve, the silence broken only by fire's hush and distant owl calls. In sieges, like Ter's long ordeal, evenings meant cracker-hard biscuit and wine rations. MEASURED drop by drop. Night settles, bringing the final bite before bed. A last draught of possetale curdled with hot milk and spices if available. Ginger from eastern caravans whispering warmth through vows. Elias retires, belly full yet restrained, dreams laced with hearth smoke and grain scents. We've savored this night's full day of sustenance, from dawn's sparse loaf to night's quiet close. A testament to Templar discipline amid Crusade's harsh song. The embers die low now, as sleep beckons you to. If this drifted you toward dreams, like, subscribe, and comment your time and place. Until next whisper, rest deep. Welcome back, wanderers through the hush of history. If part 1 lulled you into the dawn's gentle bread and the midday's simmering depths, Settle deeper now as twilight deepens and night's quiet vigil begins. The embers from Elias's evening hearth still glow faint in your mind's eye, their warmth threading through the chill stone corridors of the preceptory. Like and subscribe if these tales of Templar sustenance cradle you towards sleep. And comment below, where are you drifting from tonight? And what hour marks your repose? Let the rhythm slow further breaths sensing with the distant drip of rainwater from cloister eaves. As we linger longer in the evening's embrace, then wander into the shadowed extremes of siege crusade trail and forgotten feasts that shaped a night's enduring hunger, with shadows lengthening over the refectory after the midday grace. The preceptory exhales into afternoon's unhurried flow. Brother Elias rises from the high board, his white mantle brushing the rush-strewn floor, carrying the faint echo of meat's savor and ale's lingering warmth in his veins. No feast interrupts this interlude. The rule of the temple, that stern parchment from 1129, decrees to meals only, dawns lesser if need presses, middays greater to fuel the morrow's toil. Yet labor carves exceptions a collation for those bent under hauberk or plough. Elias, tasked with stable rounds, tucks a heel of rye into his scrip, its crust yielding softly to his thumb, crumbs like dry earth falling away. He steps into the cloister garth, where afternoon sun slants golden through fig leaves, dappling flagstones worn smooth by sandaled feet. The air hums with bees drawn to herb beds, lavender spikes swaying, their purple heads heavy with nectar, fine branches twisted by novice hands into bundles for kitchen racks. Elias pauses by the well, drawing up a bucket of water clear as mountain melt, splashing his face before sipping from a shared ladle, wooden and moss-fringed. Hunger stirs again, patient as the turning seasons, and he breaks his collation, the rye, dense and nutty, baked with emmer wheat from Anatolian fields shipped via Genos cogs. Its sour tang from a levain tended like a living relic in the pantler's alcove. Cheese follows, a wedge of soft goat's curd from the preceptory's own herd, milked at first light into oaken pails, curdled with rennet from calf stomachs and pressed between willow fronds. The rind bears faint blue veins, a whisper of mold from damp cellars, the paste creamy and sharp, melting slow on the tongue like morning mist dissolving. Elias chews deliberately, the curds popping soft, against his teeth paring it with a sip from his flask, small ale decanted warm from stone crocks. Its bubbles faint and medicinal brewed to the rule's measure, no stronger than suffices to slake thirst without begetting sloth. Chronicles from the era, like the anonymous Vita Templarium, note such collations stretched thin during lean winters, cheese grated into pottage or bartered for horseshoes at village forges. The stables beckon, their thatch roofs sagging heavy with due promise. Elias forks hay into mangers, the scent rising sharp and sweet, mingled with horse sweat and leather oil. His own mount, a destrier broad as a barrel, crunches oats measured by the squire to pecks daily, mirroring nightly grain needs. Foraging memory flickers on crusade trails from Antioch to Jerusalem. Templars dispatched sergeant brothers to glean wild barley from roadside verges, pounding it mortar and pestle into coarse meal, dampened with spring water and patted into cakes baked on helmet-hot coals. Smoke would curl thin, acrid with burnt chaff, the cakes hard as tiles yet sustaining through desert thirst. Elias pauses, flask to lips again. The ale's malt threading warmth through limbs wearied by pitchfork heft. As vespers tolls, bronze bell vibrating soft through vaulted arches, Elias returns to chapel. Collation spent, belly settled into quiet readiness. The sun dips lower, painting east walls crimson, and the preceptory gathers for evening prayer psalms murmured in unison. Voice is blending like wind through reeds. Hunger builds anew, a low tide rising, as brothers file silently to the refectory. Candlelight now their guide. Tallow dips flicker in iron sconces, casting pools of gold on whitewashed plaster. Shadows leaping like silent spectres across trestle beams. Evening rations unfold under this gentle glow, portions lighter than midday's bounty. A nod to night's repose. The tables bear white loaves portioned smaller wheaten for nights, freckled with sesame from Levantine imports, their crusts pale from quick oven heat. Interiors steaming soft as clouds. Elias tears his, fibers parting with a hush, steam carrying yeast's faint perfume. Born of vats bubbled alive with wild yeasts captured from orchard air. Beside it, pottage thinned for evening, root vegetables simmered long turnips knobby from preceptory furrows. Parsnips sweet as hidden honey, leeks pale and silken from garden deeps. Brother Thomas stirs the final pot, ladle clanging soft against cauldron rim. Herbs wilting in, dill fronds from riverbanks, gathered by boys on patrol, their feathery green releasing anise breath into the broth. On meat days, bacon ends or salted beef scraps join the mix. Fat rendering pearl white beads that coat the spoon. Elias dips in, the wooden handle warm from pot steam, broth sliding velvet over tongue. Vegetables yielding to gentle chew turnips mild starch blooming. Parsnips earth's sweet core lingering. Fish governs other evenings. Wednesday's salted herring from Frisian drifters flesh flaking pink, and oily bones crunching faint like distant gravel. Friday's cod from Atlantic holes soaked overnight. In well water to draw out brine simmered plain with bay leaves plucked from coastal shrubs. The rule insists, no flesh on fast days, lest poverty's vow bend to appetite's sigh. Ale washes it down, cooler now from cellar draught, its head frothing lace in horn cups. Malty depth easing the day's accumulated salts. Sensory whispers fill the hall. Fire's low crackle in the massive hearth, where apple logs from Normandy orchards smolder peach-scented, spoons scraping earthenware bowls. A rhythmic hush like waves on shingle, breaths drawn collective, heavy with satiation's peace. Kitchen tales echo faintly Brother Thomas recounts to novices, voice gravel from smoke years. How during Louis VII's crusade, Templar cooks improvised with camel hump fat, rendered clear over dung fires, stirred into lentil pottage that clung like mortar to ribs. Quirky edicts from the rule surface, no private feasting, all eat as one. Superiors portioning first to guard against tainted gifts from rival orders. Subtle irony lingers a knight forsworn from worldly hot, yet his trencher piled higher than a sergeant's, knightly vigor demanding tribute. Portions end with collation echoes, a dried fig or apple slice if orchards yielded. Chewed tail pulp softens sweet, pits spat discreet before grace. Brothers rise, trenchers born to gates for beggars' crusts for the halt. Broth for orphans of poverty's quiet alms. Elias lingers a moment, candle flame reflecting in his eyes, before retiring to daughter pallets, straw rustling under wool blankets. But night settles deeper, bringing the final bite before true slumber, a rite unscribed yet universal. In winter preceptories, posset warms the close, small ale heated with ewe's milk. From evening milking curdled gentle with vinegar dribbles spiced if pilgrims gifted cinnamon bark. From Arab caravans ground fine on mortar stones, its dust whispering heat through vows of restraint. Elias sips his, steam veiling his face, curds coating spoon-thick. Ginger's slow burn if available chasing chills from bones. In Outremer heat, it shifts to yogurt from goat herds trailed on marches, thick as cream, cooled in amphories sunk in wadi sands. Now we turn from preceptory peace to the Crusade's crueler board, where siege walls hem hunger tight. Imagine Acre, 1189, Saladin's host encircling like wolves, Templar Knights atop battlements, hauberks chafing sweat-slick skin. Dawn yields no refectory, rations hauled by donkey train, hard-tack biscuits, baked double-thick in Tripoli ovens, stamped with crosses, soaked in vinegar to soften their iron bite. Elias gnaws one, crumbs powdering beard. The tang cutting thirst while Maggot's inevitable companions spit aside with quiet disdain. Midday siege meal, pottage of mule or donkey, veiled as horse, boiled with wild sorrel foraged from ditch verges, leaves sharp as lances yielding to broth's murky depth, salt scarce, Dead Sea crystals rationed gram by gram, tongues crusted white from want, ale gone, replaced by cistern water, tepid and reedy, ladled from oak butts under tower shade. Chronicles of Ernu painted vivid, nights sharing one orange between five, pulp sucked dry, rinds boiled twice for tea, fish, forgotten luxury, Fridays marked by beans sprouted in damp sacks, tendrils pale and crisp, a green hope amid stone. Evening under torch flare, cheese wheels cracked open, maggot veined but eaten grimly, washed with captured rainwater soured to Posca. Foraging raids pierce line sergeants slipping moonlit to olive groves, beating branches for unripe fruit, bruising them soft in satchels. Templar rule adapts, superiors decree double prayer for gluttony shunned. Yet knights chew leather straps softened in spittle when rations fail. William of Tyre notes a siege quirk. Captured Saracen dates, sticky sweet, traded cloak for cloak. Their pits planted in rampart cracks, defiant green shoots mocking famine. Pilgrim feasts pierce such grinness, rare jewels in crusade crown. Noble donors' kings' wives, merchant queens dispatch galleys laden, capons from Cyprus coops, fattened on pistachios, boiled with verjuice from unripe grapes, broth cloudy gold, white bread manchets, sieved fine as snow, rising light for weakened frames. Elias, if graced, savors a drumstick, skin crisp from pot steam, meat flaking pearl with saffron threads give spice from donor's Levant warehouse, golden dust defying poverty's plain. Cheese flows freer, Roquefort wheels from Langwedic caves, blue marbled, creamy sharp, paired with pears poached in Hippocras, wine spiced gentle, though rule quibbles at vintage strength. Foraging deepens the tale. In European marches from Dover Straits to Scottish Lochs Templars glean, as Cistercians, nettles blanched in helmet water, young shoots tender as spring grass, dandelion roots roasted to coffee surrogate, Bitter brew sipped dawn cold. Holy Land yields manna echoes. Carob pods from Judean hills, ground to locust flour for flatbreads. Sweet chocolate depth without sin. Tamarisk galls, resin sucked for thirst. Kitchen hierarchies shift afield. Night cooks, like Brother Hugh, scarred from Hatton rout. Command wagon ovens trailed by mule. Baking galettes of acorn meal leached of tannin in streams. Quirky facts from Latin rule illuminate. Ale as physic doctors decree it for humor's balance. Brewed with wormwood against flux. No eggs save Lent break, lest avarice hatch. Broth strained through cloth for purity. Superior sipping test draughts. Humor whispers subtle. Knights vowing poverty. Yet their preceptories boast fish ponds stocked by royal grant. Carp fattened on breadcrumbs till bellies burst at knife. Sieges birthed recipes enduring mule pottage with sumac berries, tart red foraged from thickets. Cutting grease like a Saracen blade. Winter cloister feasts add hearth glow. Yuletide, though austere, permits mincemeat pasties. Mutton shreds with dried plums from Damascus. Encased in pastry lids stamped crosswise. Baked slow till juices bubble seal tight. Elias spoons the innards, suit melting rich. Plums chew yielding tart sweet. Lent counters with stockfish. Norse cod air-dried to bark stiff. Beaten soft with mallets, rehydrated days long in whey. Flaking tender with garlic crushed pestle fine. Monk cook stories humanize the steam. Brother Anselm, one-eyed from kitchen splatter. Tales of baking mishaps. Dough proofs run wild in summer heat. Loaves ballooning monstrous till ovens belch smoke like dragons, ale gone vinegary. Redeemed as siege vinegar for lentil pickle. In Outremer, Arab converts teach tamarind pods. Pods slit to suck pulp sour bright. Bartered for Templar safe conduct. Battle trail rations packed tight. Salt pork in waxed cloth. Sliced translucent. Oat cakes stamped thin, stacked tower high, vinegar flasks for Posca nightly, water quenched. Elias chews en route, dust caking lips, the pork's brine a salt-tear memory of home hearths. Drift deeper now, as the embers of siege tales fade into the quiet alchemy of forgotten recipes. Reborn from yellowed parchments and hearthside whispers, Brother Elias rests at last on his pallet, straw sighing under his weight. The final possets warmth threading through his dreams, like smoke from a distant fire. The preceptory cloister lies still, moon silvering the well's rope, while in kitchens long cold. Recipes endure prescribed by the rule, adapted by necessity, passed from cook to novice like sacred chants. Like and subscribe if these layered flavors of history ease you toward slumber's edge. And comment your corner of the night where drifts your listening, and what hush hour claims you. Let the words flow slow as cooling broth, as we uncover the Templar table's hidden scrolls. Precise measures from Latin hierarchies, sourcing secrets from Baltic barrels to Bedouin trails, and the nocturnal feasts that blurred vow with vigil. Recipes first emerge from the Regula Templi, that 1129 code inked at Troyes. Its chapters on sustenance stern yet yielding. Dawn's lesser meal, 1 libra of bread roughly for 100 grams. Dense rye or emmer from preceptory granges. Kneaded dawn still with well water, and salt pinched fine from Cheshire mines or Sicilian pans. Mixed to dough soft as earlobe, proof 2 hours under damp cloth. Bake in beehive ovens fed olive prunings. Coals raked aside for crust's blush. Yield for night's portions. Cooled on willow racks till crust firms gentle. Cracked open to steam's sigh. Pottage pairs it. Half libra oats hulled by quernstone. Simmered 3 hours in iron tripod over beech logs. Leeks quartered lengthwise to per pot from gardens hoed by sergeants at Compline. No fat, water alone thickens to velvet, ladled hot to horn bowls. Ale, 1 congius daily per man near a litre of small beer barley malted slow over peat kilns in Flandre. Hopped faint with wild cones foraged September streams, fermented 5 days in lead-lined vats. 2% strength deemed physic pure by chapter physicians. Elias spoons this dawn right. Grains swelling soft. Leeks green silk melting. Ales yeast threading mild effervescence through chilled veins. Midday expands the measure. 2 library bread. White monchet for night's finest champenois wheat bolted thrice through silk sieves. Yielding flour snow pale. Enriched with marrowbone broth from kitchen scraps. Knead with egg yolk if Lent breaks rare largesse proof triple long in winter chill. Bake sealed in clay clocks till hollow tap sings. Meat allowance. Quarter libra boiled beef or pork. Sourced from Demen herds grazed on Templar meadows from Poitou to Palestine plains. Brine first 3 days in oak butts with juniper berries crushed coarse. Boil for hours with carrot batons and onion skins for dye gold broth. Fat skimmed to pearl beads. Fish substitute. 1 libra salted ling from Biscay fleets. Soaked thrice in chinges of water-drawn moonlit. Simmered with fennel seeds from a pulley in fields. Their licorice breath-cutting brine's edge. Brother Thomas measures thus in steam-veiled kitchens. Scales balanced on trestles scarred by blade marks from cook knights' past lives. Pottage deepens. Peas 1 libra. Yellow splits from Rhineland plots. Soaked overnight in lime water to hasten cook. Boiled with bacon rinds on meat days fat rendering slow. Pearl white islands afloat. Vegetables layer in. Cabbage hearts shredded fine as quill shreds. Wilted first in pot-lid steam. Garlic bulbs from Spanish aljamas. 10 heads crushed pestle flat. Their raw fire mellowed to honey depth. Herbs bind. Hyssop sprigs from cloister beds. Bitter green to aid nightly flux. Rue leaves minced for digestion. Their resinous pine chasing heavy meats. Pot simmers 5 hours over apple logs from donor orchards. Smoke threading rafters with fruitwood perfume. Broth strained through hempen cloth to silk smooth. Ladle generous to trenchers ringed with bread dams to catch every drop. Sensory immersion claims the tongue. Beef shreds forking tender. Tendon snaps faint like lute strings plucked. Peas bursting cream thick. Garlic's lingering sulphur warming throat like hearth glow. Ale doubles to 2 congi, stronger at 3%. Drawn cool from gravel-floored cellars where casks age on trestles. Bung holes sealed, wax cross stamped. Evening lightens portions half. Pottage thinned with whey from cheese making. Bread heals only. Fish flakes if fast governs. Quirky rule recipe. Bread of necessity. Acorns leached 12 hours in running brook. Dried. Ground quern fine. Mixed barley half. Baked flat on griddle stones for trail march. Hard as horn yet sustaining like manna promised. Sourcing unfurls a map of medieval trade. Templar convoys, its arteries. European preceptories tap granges. Wheat threshed by flail on Templar threshing floors near Paris. Winnowed wine sifted, salt from Lumberg heaths, shoveled pink from boiling pans, cheese from alpine wheels aged in salt caves, rind brushed ash for noble bloom. Holy Land imports dazzle, rice from Nile barrages via Venetian Fondocci at acre, pearly grains swelling thrice cooked, dates from Jericho palms, sun-dried to chewy amber, pitted by women in shade cloisters, gifted pious to vow war nights. Spices whisper rare, cumin from Syrian hills, seeds toasted dry pan till oil blooms, ground for pottage lift, saffron from La Monca crocus, filaments worth gold, dissolved milk-warm for feast broths when pilgrims dine, forgotten chronicles illuminate extremes. Jacques de Vitry's Historia Orientalis 1210s details Hatton First Battle. 1187. Templars sucking camel hide moisture post-defeat. Then mule broth laced piss-filtered for purity desperation's recipe. Strained through charcoal for night's survival. William of Tyre recounts Tyre siege. 1187. Rooftop gardens sown beans. Shoots harvested dawn damp. Pods boiled with sea water till salt crystals rim bowls. Ernul's chronic whispers pilgrim luxuries. 1148 Damascus camp. Eleanor of Aquitaine's train gifting much Paynomond paste honey-bound, stamped Templar lions. A sweet sin rationed crumb by crumb. Subtle sarcasm shades the vows. Poverty decrees plain fare. Yet preceptory fish ponds carved royal grunt fat in carp on bread offal, till they float belly up at harvest. Knights spearing them lance-like for Friday grace. Siege recipes harden further. Acres long grip, 1189 to 1191. Galley supplies yield sea pottage. Barnacles scraped hulls, boiled with vinegar from soured wine. Chitons crunching like gravel tempered by hunger. Foraged siege cakes. Tamarisk manna skimmed dawn dew from Sinai-like dunes near Jaffa. Sticky white. Kneaded lentil flour. Sun-baked flat till leathery chew sustains. Posset evolves dire. Rainwater curdled asses. Milk. Strained maggot-free. Spiced wormwood against camp fever rule-endorsed physic. Bitter as crusade regret. Monk cook stories breathe life into steam. Brother Giles limped from Antioch catapult. Mastered trenchers revenge. Spoilt meat vinegar pickled overnight. Reborn pottage with wild mustard greens beaten tender. A yellow fire masking rot. In prison preceptory. Sister Agnes Rare lay cooked by widows grey-stalked novices galette tea lent. Nettle tops blanched, helmet hot, chopped sorrel sharp, bound barley meal, griddled fatless till crisp edges char faint, pared cider pressed abbey orchards, outrimmer tales from Usama ibn Munkid's memoirs via Templar scribes, Saracen yogurt traded, strained goats, milk-hung cheesecloth caves, way drunk as night's elixir against sunstroke. Thick curds spooned, honey drizzled if bees foraged comb. Battle trail packs married verse, saltfish, fillets waxed parchment, stacked herringbone, oat bannocks stamped cross-deep to portion fare, vinegar files corked rune-etched for Posca pure. Elias on March chews thus, dust filming salt crystals on lips. Bannocks chew yielding slow to oats nut depth. Vinegars bite quenching dust thirst like dessert well struck. Winter recipes half huddle. In bold collation, parsnip potted slow roasted embers. Roots caramel sweet as toffee. Pureed wooden masher till silk. Crowned hazelnuts cracked anvil struck. You're rare. blood sausage from cull hogs, oats-bound pig blood spiced clove studs from donor spice jests, poached till firm slice, skin snap yielding berry dark core. Lent deepens austerity, stockfish malleted bark soft, steeped way 7 days, flaked garlic mashed, vinegared sharp, Easter breaks with lamb shank broth, bones simmered marrow melt, fat caps skimmed golden for night restore. Nocturnal whispers close the cycle midnight vigils, permit cyprites unscribed. Weeknights take hypercras gentle, pour wine Hippocras spiced cinnamon ginger, strained gold through Hippocras bag, sipped vigil warm against flesh frail, dreams feast freer, Elias visions boar haunch roasted out lospit, juices dripping fire hiss, forbidden fat chasing vow shadows, ease further into the hush, where forgotten luxuries flicker like candle wicks in draughty holes, half-remembered indulgences that tested Templar vows amid the steam of hidden feasts. Brother Elias slumbers now, his breath sensing with the preceptory's midnight creek timbers settling. Distant dogs baying at moon-pale clouds while dreams weave rare bounty through poverty's plain. Weave! The rule bends soft in chronicle's margins. Whispers of donor gifts and battle spoils the gilded trenches when superiors turned blind eyes. Like and subscribe if these veiled flavors of restraint cradle your drift toward dawn. And comment below where does your night unfold, and what quiet hour wraps you gentle. Let words simmer low as embers banked for morn as we unveil the luxuries tucked in Templar shadows. Spices smuggled on pilgrim galleys vow breaks, hushed in winter cloisters. And the eternal hearth's final glow sealing a night's sustenance from first light to forever. Forgotten luxuries begin with pilgrim trains, those noble convoys from England's misty moors. To Outrimer's sun-scorched strands, Eleanor of Aquitaine's 1147 entourage. Chronicled in De Expugnation Lixbonensis. Showered Templars at Lisbon's siege with marchpane towers almond paste honey needed. Sculpted lion high, iced sugar fine from Narbonne refineries, stamped Red Cross proud. Elias, if quartered there, spoons a crumbling pinnacle, paste melting almond sweet on tongue. Honey's golden thread defying poverty's coarse grain. Capons follow. Cypress fattened on sesame chaff, and pistachios shelled gold by convent hands, boiled in cauldrons with verjuice pressed from. Unripe Lombardy grapes broth cloudy pearl. Flecked saffron filaments, dissolved warm from donor crocus beds in beziers. Skin yields crisp to fork prick meat flaking moist as dawn mist chased by Hippocras poor man's. Small wine spice clove ginger from Arab way stations strained silk through muslin cones. Sipped vigil warm against siege chills. Spice hoards surface in preceptory cellars gifts pious. Excused by rules chapter 30 poverty yields to physic need. Cumin from Edessa hills, seeds fat and black. Toasted dry in iron skillets till oils bead umber. Ground pestle slow for pottage lift, earth warm chasing mutton's winter bite. Saffron threads from Spanish saffron fields, filament gold worth a squire's ransom. Steeped milk for rice pilaf imported ricey from Rosetta Nile mouths via acre quays grains swelling. Pearl, butter drizzled rare from donor herds, saffron sea sunset hue staining spoon tips. Cinnamon bark curls from Ceylon via Venetian doges, gifted Baldwin IV's leper court. Rasp fine for posset dust, its woody sweet whispering through curdled ale like forbidden prayer. ginger roots nobbled from Malabar coasts, candied pilgrim sweet in honey syrups, chewed trail long for flux ward, fibrous snap yielding citrus fire that warms night bellies march weary, vow breaks hush deeper, anecdotes etched in inquisitorial confessions post 1307 rest stales, surfaced like breadcrumbs from drowned trenchers. Jacques de Mollay's Paris preceptory whispers Pross's dead Templiers, hosted clandestine venison haunches during Philip IV's tax siege, hunted Poissy woods by sergeant poachers, roasted outlier spit over thorn brush fires that smoked low to veil scent, Elias in dream echo, tears haunch fiber, juices dripping fire spit hiss, fat-rich, forbidden chasing lean vows shadow, washed contraband claret from Gascon casks bartered knights' cloaks. Fish day cheats abound, Friday white meats veiled as cheese eels from lawyer weirs. Smoked oak gentle, flaked into peas pottage to mimic curd, superiors winking at error clerical. Egg hordes, rule frown save Easter, pilfer divecets for custard steamed bowl-lidded, yolk gold quivering, nutmeg dusted from smuggled Indian nuts, spooned midnight by fevered nights, winter cloister feasts fracture austerity soft. Annals Templary Note 1190s champagne preceptories marking nativity with blood puddings. Colbors bled dawn quick into pewter bowls. Blood whisked hot with barley groats and suit shreds from kitchen fat. Spiced nutmeg clove from donor chests. Stuffed hog intestines tied knot. Poached slow till skin's firm prick. Sliced to berry dark cores oozing oat thick. Elias spears around. Skin snap yielding iron warm depth. Plum dried from orchard windfalls chopped fine for tart cut. In bulk whispers eight cakes griddled sheep fat tallow rendered clear. From dawn milkings brushed iron plate. Till smoke curls blue cakes. Patted thick as palms baked golden spotted stacked butter pat thin. From alpine donor wheels if snow-blocked roads spared siege luxuries defy grim. Acre 1191 Richard. Lionheart's convoy unloads Cyprus wine vintage thick decanted posset with camel milk curdled. Date honey threads of mastic resin from Shio's isles lending Pinelix a bomb to sun-cracked lips. Hatton survivors Peribon Alethea's complete history bartered Saladin truce for honeycombs. Dripped comb fresh wax stewed gritty sweet honey pooling amber for bread dip. That sustained retreat miles. Eternal hearth anchors all the massive refectory fireplace stone vaulted like cathedral crypt fed. Logs chained from donor woods. Normandy beach slow-burning peach perfume Provencal olive crackling. Resin sap tears Scottish birch popping silver sparks like prayer stars. Brother Thomas Banks embers post-Compline. Ash rake scraping hush. Coals glowing garnet heart for dawn rekindle. Smoke threads upward linden rafters black-sooted generations deep, carrying meat fat ghosts and herb echoes into night air. Elias gathers their eve final, half-warm chasing palate chill, sipping final draft Groot ale spiced yarrow mugwort from cloister wilds. Bitter medicine for dream sound sleep. Hearthside tales from monk cooks linger. Brother Radulf, Toulouse born. Master Templar confit. Duck legs salted brine week. Submerged goose fat rendered winter clear from grange flocks. Slow confit ember banked for days till meat falls bone swan. Stored pot sealed for Lent lift. Spooned coal fat jellied with mustard greens foraged snow melt. In Jerusalem preceptory, Arab convert cooks taught lab negots milk strained amphora sunk. Thick curd oils are tar from MT Lebanon slopes, scooped warm peated torn hand-hot from Tabern ovens. Sesame pinched crust yielding herbed cream. Battlefield half shrines evolve. Destria dung fires. Ringed stone. Pots tripod strung over turd coals brew smoking. Simmering mule shank with wild thyme crushed boot heel. Broth strained cloak fold for purity. Elias stirs such. Spoon wooden charred. Vapors veiling Saracen dust horizons. Forgotten facts crown the board. Rule chapter 51 decrees bread alms to poor daily. Crusts gathered dawn scraped for village gates. Yet knights reclaim test crumbs, preoms, subtle lordship. Ale as holy physic. Physicians brew. Wormwood groot against humours black. Quafford vigil for vision clear. Fish ponds royal grant fattened perch on maggot bread. Netted Friday bell toll. A poverty's loophole pond deep. Vows irony whispers close. Knights forswearing wealth. Yet their preceptories millstreams grind donor wheat toll free. Ovens bake monchet snow fine while peasants write chew. Luxuries fade to disciplines, for Julius wakes dawn refreshed, cycle eternal. We've traced now the full arc of Templar sustenance, from dawn's wry whisper to half's final ember glow. Luxuries veiled, and vows tempered in steam and shadow. The preceptory sleeps deep, as should you, breaths slowing with spent hunger's peace. If this saga lulled your night entire, like, subscribe for more history's hush, and comment your place and time Amsterdam twilight or Delhi dawn, until whispers next unfold. Rest boundless. Hey guys, tonight we drift softly into the shadowed palaces of 5th century China, where the northern winds carry whispers of silk and incense through the halls of the Northern Wei dynasty. Lanterns flicker gently over ancient scrolls, casting long, soothing shadows on walls adorned with faded murals of wandering cranes and misty mountains. Like and subscribe if you enjoy these quiet journeys into the past. Comment where you're listening from and what time it is there. Settle in as we follow Empress Feng's extraordinary life from humble origins, amid the dust of fallen kingdoms to the quiet heights of imperial power. Her steps measured by the slow turn of seasons and the patient flow of river waters. Let the scent of sandalwood and aged ink lull you, as we trace her path through courts where patience was the sharpest blade, and wisdom bloomed like lotus in still ponds. Breathe deeply now, close your eyes, and allow the rhythm of her story to carry you into peaceful slumber. Dawn breaks over her childhood in Pingcheng, that vast northern capital where the yellow river-s distant murmur blends with the soft patter of rain on tiled roofs. Born in the year 442, or perhaps 441 as some scrolls whisper, Feng entered a world of fragile empires. Granddaughter to Feng Hong, the last fleeting emperor of northern Yana realms swallowed by the rising tide of Northern Wei in 436. Imagine the air thick with the smoke of burning banners, the faint cry of displaced families echoing through grasslands where hardy nomads herded sheep. Under endless skies, her family, once rulers of rugged lands east of the Taihong Mountains, found themselves captives in the victor's court, their noble blood diluted by chains of circumstance. Feng's father, reduced to servitude, navigated the precarious dance of survival among former foes, while her mother wove quiet resilience into the fabric of daily life. Young Feng with eyes like polished jade reflecting the flicker of oil lamps. Learned early the art of stillness amid chaos the way a single misplaced word could summon guards. With drawn swords, their boots thudding softly on polished stone floors. The palace corridors of Pingcheng stretched like veins of jade through the heart of the city, lined with eunuchs in flowing robes that rustled like autumn leaves. Feng, barely more than a child, was sent into service as a lowly maid, her small hands folding linens scented with camphor and chrysanthemum. The air hummed with the low chants of Buddhist monks, their prayer wheels turning lazily in courtyards where peach blossoms drifted on breezes. From the Gobi's edge, she moved through these halls with the grace of one born to them, though her heart carried the shadow of lost thrones. Her aunt, an imperial consort whose favor lingered like morning mist, offered subtle protection a shared bowl of congee warmed over charcoal braziers. Stories murmured under the cover of night. These moments, bathed in the golden glow of lantern light, planted seeds of observation in Feng's mind. How courtiers bowed low, their foreheads brushing cool marble, yet their eyes darted like fish in shadowed pools. As years unfolded like the pages of a well-worn sutra, Feng's beauty emerged soft and unassuming, her features framed by hair pinned with simple bone ornaments that clicked faintly against her collar. The palace kitchens filled with the steam of simmering millet porridge and the sharp tang of fermented black beans, where servants exchanged hushed tales of the crown prince. Tuobejun, future emperor, when Chenghu's thoughtful gaze pierced the veils of hierarchy. He wandered the inner gardens at dusk, where willows trailed fingers into koi ponds, their surfaces rippling under the weight of fireflies. It was here, amid the scent of night-blooming jasmine, that Feng first caught his eye, perhaps carrying a tray of persimmons glistening like amber jewels. No grand declarations marked their meeting, instead, a quiet nod, a lingering glance that spoke of souls adrift in the same vast sea. Tuobejun, heir to a dynasty forged from Xi'an by horsemen and Han scholars, found in her a calm mirror to his own introspective spirit. Whispers spread through the servants' quarters like mist over rice paddies, carried on breaths warmed by shared pipes of mild tobacco. Feng's rise was no storm, but a gentle current, from maid to trusted attendant. Her days filled with the rhythmic scratch of brushes on silk, as she assisted in the prince's studies. The air in his chambers carried the earthy aroma of inkstones ground, with water from mountain springs, mingled with the faint spice of cinnamon bark from afar. She listened as tutors droned on Confucian classics, their voices a soothing cadence that lulled the mind toward sleep. Tuobejun, ascending the throne in 452 as Emperor Wencheng at the tender age of 12, elevated her soon after, naming her an imperial consort. Their bond deepened in the privacy of phoenix-bedecked pavilions, where silk curtains billowed softly in draughts from latticed windows overlooking terraced gardens. Life as consort unfolded in layers of ritual and repose. Mornings began with the tolling of bronze bells, their deep tones vibrating through mist-shrouded courtyards, summoning attendants to dress in robes embroidered with clouds and dragons that shimmered like dew-kissed spider webs. Feng attended the emperor in audiences where ministers knelt on rush mats, presenting memorials rolled like sleeping dragons. The hall smelled of beeswax candles and the subtle musk of aging parchment. Voices murmuring petitions for flood relief or border patrols against nomadic raiders. She bore no sons in those early years, yet her counsel flowed like clear spring water, advising on matters of grain storage when northern droughts parched the earth, leaving fields cracked like old pottery. Tuobajun leaned on her wisdom, their evenings spent poring over star charts by lamplight, the constellations wheeling slowly above Ping Cheng's walls. But shadows lengthened even in prosperity. The year 465 arrived with the chill of early frost. Winds howling through passes where watchtowers stood sentinel. Emperor Wencheng, weakened by illness that gnawed like termites in cedar beams, passed from this world on the 21st day of the 6th lunar month. His death rites filled the air with incense so thick it clung to robes like morning fog, pyres crackling softly as personal effects burned in honor of his spirit's journey. Feng, now Empress Dowager 23, watched from veiled balconies, her heart a still pond disturbed by pebbles of grief. Their son, Tuobahong born for 154, the future Emperor Xianwan ascended at 11, a boy with wide eyes reflecting the weight of jade seals heavier than mountains. Power, however, slipped like sand through fingers into the grasp of Yifu Han, a regent whose ambition burned brighter than sacrificial fires. He strode palace halls with the confidence of a steppe lord, executing rivals whose heads rolled silently onto straw mats in hidden courtyards. The air grew tense, laced with the metallic tang of fierce sweat from courtiers who bowed lower, their whispers stifled by the rustle of peacock feather fans. Feng retreated to inner apartments, where the scent of osmanthus bloomed defiantly. Plotting in the quiet hours when moonlight silvered the eaves, allies gathered subtly. Her brother Fengshi, whose steady presence was like an ancient pine, and loyal eunuchs whose soft footfalls carried secrets through shadowed colonnades. Spring of 466 bloomed with purpose. Cherry petals drifted like snow onto palace paths as Feng orchestrated Yifu Han's downfall. Guards, loyal to hidden oaths, seized him during a banquet where wine cups gleamed under lantern glow, and lutes plucked melancholy tunes. His execution was swift, a muffled thud in the pre-dawn hush. Blood-staining flagstones washed clean by morning rains. Feng emerged as regent, her authority a gentle tide reshaping the court. The empire sighed in relief, borders secure as she dispatched generals to absorb surrendering lands from the faltering Yusong kingdom, vast territories where rivers wound through fertile plains, their banks lined with willows weeping into the current. Under her guidance, young Emperor Xianwan matured amid routines of scholarly pursuit. Mornings in the hall of literary prosperity saw scrolls unrolled on lacquered tables, the scratch of brushes blending with the drip of water clocks measuring fleeting hours. Feng oversaw his education personally at times, her voice a calm river reciting passages from the Analects. The room warmed by braziers emitting curls of pine-scented smoke. Court intrigues simmered low, jealous consorts in embroidered slippers, gliding past with sidelong glances. Ministers vying for audiences where edicts were sealed with vermilion ink. Yet Feng navigated with patience, her quill sharper than any sword, reforming tax ledgers that balanced like scales in a merchant's store. By 467, Xianwan reached adulthood, his majority marked by ceremonies where silk drums throbbed softly and banners fluttered in breezes, carrying pollen from distant apricot groves. Feng yielded power gracefully, retiring to contemplative gardens where koi swirled in ponds fed by trickling fountains. But tensions brewed. Her lover, Li Yi, a scholar whose poetry flowed like honeyed wine, drew the young emperor's ire. Accusations flew, crimes fabricated in the dim light of envy, leading to Li Yi's execution in 470. His final poem inked hastily on prison silk. Feng's resentment deepened, a quiet frost settling over her heart as she pondered starlit skies from latticed pavilions. Years drifted by, bringing fragile peace. Xianwan, now retired emperor, after yielding the throne to his son Tuobahong Emperor Xiaowen in 471, wielded influence from shadowed retreats. Feng busied herself with Buddhist devotions, commissioning temples where monks chanted sutras in echoing halls scented with agarwood. The empire prospered modestly, granaries filled with millet glowing golden in torchlight, borders patrolled by horsemen whose hooves thudded rhythmically on steppe trails. Yet in 476, as autumn leaves carpeted palace grounds in crimson and gold, opportunities stirred. Xianwen's visit to her apartments ended abruptly. Some say poison slipped into his tea. Like a forgotten shadow, others assassins smothering him in silken folds. Feng resumed regency over 9-year-old Xiaowen, her title Grand Empress Dowager, power restored like a river reclaiming its bed. With the moon climbing higher in the velvet sky, Feng's regency over young Emperor Xiaowen unfolded like the gradual unfurling of a lotus at dawn, her influence weaving through the Northern Wei court like threads of finest silk. Pingcheng's palaces, those grand edifices of round earth and glazed tiles gleaming under frost-kissed mornings, became the quiet stage for her administrative genius. At just 34, she assumed the mantle of Grand Empress Dowager, her days beginning with the soft tolling of dawn bells that rippled across fog-shrouded courtyards, summoning ministers to the hall of supreme harmony. The air there carried the faint, comforting aroma of roasted sesame seeds from breakfast trays and the sharper bite of ink freshly ground on porcelain slabs. Feng seated behind gossamer screens embroidered with phoenixes and flight-reviewed edicts, with a gaze steady as the eternal yellow river, her voice a soothing murmur correcting imbalances in the tax rolls, ensuring that peasants in distant villages, their hands calloused from tilling frost-hardened soil, bore burdens light. As falling snowflakes, her reforms touched every corner of the empire. From the windswept steppes, where Xianbai herdsmen drove flocks under vast, star-strewn skies, to the terraced rice fields south where water wheels creaked lazily in the current. She streamlined the bureaucracy, appointing officials not by birthright alone, but by merit. Their examinations held in candlelit halls, where the scratch of exam brushes blended with the distant hoot of owls. Quirky forgotten facts emerged from the Book of Wei. Feng personally audited granary inventories. During a harsh winter of 472, her palanquin swaying gently through snow-dusted paths, the crunch of boots on ice the only sound breaking the hush. Courtiers marveled at her patience outmaneuvering greedy tax farmers with nothing but a sharp quill, and ledgers balanced like a danceress poise subtle sarcasm. In her edicts hinting that ambition without wisdom is but a horse without reins wandering into. The abyss, the empire's coffers swelled, silk roads humming with caravans bearing spices whose scent cinnamon, clove. Myrrh wafted through market stalls alive with the low barter of voices. Daily routines in the inner palace painted a rhythm as predictable as the phases of the moon. Feng rose before the first light painted the eastern horizon in soft pinks. Attendants gliding in with basins of rosewater-scented steam rising like morning mist. Her robes, layers of pale blue gauze whispering against lacquered floors, carried her to private chapels where Buddhist chants droned from monks' throats, their prayer beads clicking softly like rain on lotus leaves. Breakfast was simple, steamed buns filled with lotus paste, their sweetness mingling with green tea brewed from leaves plucked in misty southern hills. Afternoons brought audiences, where petitioners knelt on heated cane platforms, the warmth seeping through woolen mats as they pleaded for drought aid or bandit suppression. Feng's responses flowed gently, laced with Confucian wisdom drawn from scrolls yellowed by time, their pages rustling under fingers calloused from years of turning them. Relationships bloomed and withered in this serene yet treacherous garden. Her brother Fengshi, a pillar of quiet strength, managed military logistics from offices smelling of oiled leather and saddle polish, his strategies repelling Ruran nomads whose hooves thundered like distant storms across the Gobi. Fringes, yet family dynamics held shadows. Cousins vied for favor, their whispers slithering through corridors lined with murals of serene landscapes. Mountains veiled in clouds, rivers meandering endlessly. Feng navigated with meditative calm, rewarding loyalty with positions akin to trusted gardeners tending imperial peonies, their petals unfurling in the hush of spring evenings. Superstitions flavored court life. She consulted diviners over tortoise shells cracked by heat, their patterns interpreted by firelight as portents of floods or bountiful harvests. Incense curling lazily toward raftered ceilings. Political maneuvers unfolded with the subtlety of incense smoke drifting on still air. In 474, as cherry blossoms carpeted palace paths in pale pink drifts, Feng orchestrated the execution of troublesome eunuchs, whose influence had grown like unchecked vines. No public spectacle marred the peace. Instead, quiet arrests under cover of night. The clink of manacles muffled by heavy brocade sleeves. She championed scholarly pursuits, establishing academies where youths pored over classics amid the scent of polished cedar desks and mulberry paper. Emperor Shaowen, now a boy of 12 blossoming into awareness, absorbed her lessons in private solar-lit rooms, star maps spread before them, like tapestries of the heavens' constellations, named in whispers as comforters against the weight of the dragon throne. But as seasons turned with the inexorable grace of falling leaves, tensions simmered in the outer courts. Shaowen's maturity approached, marked by his first independent audiences in 476, where his voice, still soft as a fledgling's call, echoed edicts influenced by his grandmother's unseen hand. Feng withdrew gradually to contemplative retreats, her pavilions overlooking lotus ponds where dragonflies skimmed the surface in lazy arcs. The air heavy with the perfume of water lilies at dusk. Yet power's pull lingered. She advised on border expansions. Generals dispatched to claim territories from the weakened southern dynasties. their banners fluttering like prayer flags in mountain passes. Quirky anecdotes persist. Feng once resolved a diplomatic impasse with northern Yan remnants by gifting scrolls of poetry, their verses flowing like wine to soothe old grudges, her patience proving sharper than any spear. Years drifted by, bringing Xiao Wen to the cusp of full reign in 490, his grandmother's shadow lengthening like evening over the steppes. She busied herself with philanthropy, endowing monasteries where golden Buddha statues gleamed under flickering butter lamps. Monks' robes rustling as they copied sutras onto bark paper. Court intrigues persisted, jealous officials plotting in tea houses scented with jasmine brew, their schemes dissolving like mist before her foresight. Feng's scholarly works, commentaries on Confucian texts, circulated in elite circles, their pages bound in embroidered silk cases that clicked open with satisfying snaps. Personal reflections filled her journals, inked in the quiet of midnight hours, when owls call softly beyond latticed screens. Twilight gathered in the inner palace as 490 dawned crisp and clear, frost etching delicate patterns on window panes. Xiao Wen, now 20, asserted his rule with reforms echoing his grandmother's vision, Sinicization policies urging Xi'an by nobles to adopt Han surnames, their steppe tunics traded for flowing hanfu that billowed in courtyard breezes. Feng supported from afar, her apartments a haven of tranquility scented with agarwood incense and dried peonies. Yet mortality's chill wind stirred at 48. She felt the subtle ache in joints, once nimble as willow branches. Daily walks through herb gardens, where mint and ginger released earthy aromas underfoot, sustained her vigor, attendants trailing with fans of peacock feathers stirring lazy airs. As shadows lengthened further, illness crept like fog over Pingcheng's walls in the autumn of 490. Feng, weakened by a persistent cough that echoed hollowly in marble halls, dictated final edicts from her phoenix bed, silk canopies drifting gently overhead. Physicians prescribed tonics of ginseng root and licorice, their bitter steam mingling with the perpetual incense. Xiao Wen visited often, his presence a comfort like sunlight piercing clouds, their conversations weaving family lore with statecraft tales of her northern Yan ancestry softened by time's gentle erosion. Loyalists gathered, their robes pooling like ink on floors as they vowed continuity. Her passing came peacefully on the 14th day of the 6th month, 490. The air outside heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth and blooming night jasmine. Funeral rites unfolded with solemn grace. Processions winding through streets lined with white silk banners fluttering softly. Monks chanting sutras whose tones blended with the patter of summer showers. She was interred with imperial honors in a mausoleum carved into Yangong cliffs, its corridors echoing with the drip of subterranean waters, guardians of stone watching eternally. Xiao Wen decreed her the posthumous title of Wenming, cultured and brilliant, her legacy etched in gold on stels that gleamed under torchlight. We've lingered long in the echoes of her passing, but let us drift back now deeper into the folds of her life, where the quiet currents of daily existence in Pingcheng's vast palace complex reveal the true rhythm of Empress Feng's world. Imagine the early hours of 471, just after reclaiming her regency, when mist clung to the tiled roofs like a lover's breath, and the first light filtered through paper screens, painted with delicate plum blossoms. Feng's apartments, nestled in the inner sanctum, exhaled the comforting aroma of sandalwood altars and freshly laundered silk, where attendants moved like shadows, their bamboo combs gliding through her raven hair with rhythmic whispers. Breakfast arrived on trays of rosewood inlay, bowls of congee shimmering with sesame oil, steamed eggs as soft as clouds, and persimmons whose skins peeled back to reveal flesh like burnished amber. She savored these moments of solitude, her mind already tracing the day's petitions' grain distributions for famine-struck provinces. Where rivers ran low, their banks cracked and thirsting under relentless sun. The court awoke slowly, bronze bells tolling from watchtowers that pierced the northern skyline, their tones rolling like gentle waves across courtyards paved with slabs worn smooth by generations of slippered feet. Feng processed to the throne hall, her palanquin swaying on poles borne by eunuchs whose breaths puffed white in the crisp air, the scent of their powdered wigs mingling with dew-kissed peonies lining the path. Behind lattice screens of sandalwood filigree, she observed ministers prostrating themselves, foreheads kissing cool stone as they unrolled bamboo memorials etched with pleas for border reinforcements against the ever-probing Ruran cognates. Her responses, delivered through intermediaries whose voices carried her calm timbre, balanced mercy with firmness pardons for minor embezzlers who returned pilfered silks, demotions for those whose greed echoed too loudly in empty granaries. Subtle humor laced her private missives to allies. Some men chased shadows of power, only to stumble into their own darkness, quill scratching softly by lamplight. Personal relationships formed the hidden lattice supporting her reign. Her brother Fengshi, with his broad shoulders and gaze steady as granite cliffs, oversaw the cavalry stables, where horses nickered softly over troughs of fermented mash, their coats brushed to a sheen that caught the sun like rippling rivers. He thwarted a minor coup in 472, whispers of disloyal generals quelled by midnight arrests. The clatter of armor muffled in fog-shrouded barracks, smelling of hay and saddle soap. Feng's ladies-in-waiting daughters of loyal houses shared evenings in solar rooms, warmed by charcoal braziers, their needles flashing as they embroidered phoenix motifs. On gauze robes, conversation drifting like incense smoke over tales of southern poets whose verses evoked misty-yanked seashores. Superstitions wove through these intimacies. Feng wore amulets of jade carved with longevity symbols, consulting astrologers whose turtle shells crackled over flames, smoke curling towards ceilings painted with coiling dragons. Scholarly pursuits bloomed as her private sanctuary amid political tempests. By 473, she commissioned the translation of Buddhist sutras from Sanskrit poems yellowed by Himalayan journeys. Monks huddled in scriptoriums where the air hummed with chants and the papery rustle of mulberry, leaves pressed into sheets. Her own commentaries on the classic of filial piety flowed from her brush in elegant clerical script, pages drying on racks beside windows overlooking artificial hills dotted with dwarf pines. These works, bound in brocade covers that sighed open, influenced Shaowen's early education tutors reciting passages as tutor birds sang in gilded cages, their notes blending with the drip of water clocks marking scholarly hours. Quirky fact from faded annals: Feng once debated a visiting monk till moonrise. her arguments disarming his zeal with questions gentle as spring rain, leaving him to ponder over tea scented with osmanthus. Court intrigues simmered perpetually, like broth left too long on low coals. In 475, a consort's faction women in robes stiff with gold thread spread rumors of Feng's favoritism toward Han officials, their whispers slithering through pleasure pavilions where lutes plucked melodies of longing and wine-warmed gullets chilled by evening draughts. Feng countered with grace, hosting banquets under lantern strings swaying like fireflies. Platters of braised duck glazed and honey mingling scents with lychee compote. She outmaneuvered them through alliances forged in quiet audiences, promoting rivals whose loyalty proved as enduring as Pingchang's city walls, hewn from earth-rammed layer by patient layer. Family dynamics added tender layers. Xiao Wen, her grandson, sought her counsel in private gardens where gravel crunched under tiny sandals. His questions on governance met with stories of her captive youth, softened by time into lessons of resilience, as 476 unfolded with the blush of apricot blossoms carpeting paths in pale confetti. Feng's regency deepened its hold. Reforms extended to the legal code. Edicts carved on stone stels that gleamed under torchlight in public squares, their characters prescribing fair trials, where witnesses testified before judges perched on raised daisies smelling of polished teak. She curbed eunuch power, dispersing their networks like mist before dawn sun executions rare, but exiles to distant monasteries, where they copied texts till hands cramped over endless folios. The empire's pulse steadied. Trade caravans wound from Silk Road oases. Bales of Samarkand cloth unfurling in markets alive with the babble of merchants, and the sizzle of skewered lamb over open flames. Political maneuvers peaked in diplomatic triumphs. Feng dispatched envoys to the southern Qi court in 477, their saddlebags heavy with gifts of white jade by discs, and rolls of finest Luoyang silk negotiations sealing peace. That allowed resources to flow northward like tributaries to the great Yellow River. Quirky anecdote: she personally selected a white gerfalcon as tribute, its plumage like fresh snow. Trained to perch motionless on gauntleted wrists, a symbol of vigilance that charmed southern lords. Into concessions, borders expanded subtly, forts rising on steppe frontiers where sentries warmed hands over dung fires, their vigils rewarded by granary ships gliding silently up rivers under starlight. Daily life in the harem offered repose amid these exertions. Afternoons saw Feng strolling lotus ponds, dragonflies humming over pads that bobbed gently, the air thick with pollen and the faint trill of caged nightingales. Attendants fanned her with leaves of palm imported from southern groves. Conversations meandering to memories of her northern Yan girlhood grasslands, where winds sang through feathergrass, family feasts of roast mutton spiced with wild cumin. Evenings brought reflection, scrolls of poetry by her bedside, verses evoking cranes winging over eternal mountains, her fingers tracing characters as embers glowed softly in the hearth. By 478, as summer monsoons painted the air with petrichor, and the patter of rain on lily pads, Xiao Wen's adolescence flowered. Feng guided his first military review. Cavalry thundering past reviewing stands draped in yellow silk billowing like imperial canopies. the ground trembling faintly under hooves shod in iron. She instilled cynicization Xian by nobles donning horn caps, their braids shorn in ceremonies smelling of incense, and lustral water poured from silver ewers. Tensions with conservative Twobakin brood, their grumbles quelled by appointments to lucrative posts overseeing tribute from vassal states. Caravans laden with ivory tusks and rhino horn that clicked in ox carts. Relationships with eunuchs evolved into a delicate balance. Chief Steward Holler, whose powdered face hid a mind sharp as obsidian, relayed palace gossip over trays of candied ginger, his loyalty bought with subtle promotions. Feng's subtle sarcasm shone in rebuking overreach. Eunuchs served the throne, not sit upon it like shadows that lengthen but never eclipse the sun. Superstitions peaked during eclipses, caught trembling as drums beat ceaselessly. Feng leading rites where she burned talismans inscribed with protective runes, smoke spiraling toward obscured heavens. Twilight years beckoned earlier than expected, illness shadowing for 179 like persistent clouds. Feng retreated more to scholarly cloisters, dictating memoirs amid the rustle of ghostwriters' brushes, pages filled with reflections on power's fleeting nature, a lantern's glow, beautiful yet destined to fade. Philanthropy flourished, orphanages funded where children slurped millet from wooden bowls, tutors teaching letters under thatched roofs fragrant with cedar beams. Her legacy took shape in Xiao Wen's policies, echoes of her quill in edicts promoting merit over blood. Yet intrigues lingered, a 480 plot by disgruntled generals, fueled by Rurin gold, unraveled through her spy's network of maids whose ears caught whispers in steamy bathhouses, scented with jasmine petals floating in copper tubs. Justice was meditative, trials in hushed halls, sentences of distant exile where culprits farmed salt flats, winds howling isolation. Feng's patience prevailed, her court a model of serene order. Drifting further into the tranquil depths of her regency, let us pause. Where the rivers of time slow around the pivotal year of 482 when Pingcheng's grand avenues bloomed. With the soft hush of mulberry leaves unfurling under gentle rains, their silken threads harvested by villagers whose hands moved in rhythmic harmony with the seasons. Feng, now in her 40th year, embodied the quiet authority of ancient pines rooted deep in terraced hillsides. Her presence felt not in thunderous decrees, but in the steady flow of edicts that irrigated the Empire's veins. Mornings found her in the pavilion of eternal spring, structure of latticed bamboo, where morning light filtered through vines heavy with dew-kissed grapes. The air alive with the trill of caged orioles and the faint steam of herbal infusions, goji berries, and chrysanthemum petals steeped to soothe the spirit. From here, she dispatched couriers on swift ponies whose manes streamed like comet tails, carrying vermilion-sealed scrolls to governors overseeing canal dredges where barges groaned under. Loads of tribute rice, their hulls creaking softly against wooden locks. Her administrative genius shone in the minutiae of governance, details drawn from the faded ink of the Book of Wei like whispers from forgotten ancestors. Feng reformed the equal field system, apportioning lands to peasant families in neat grids etched on cadastral maps spread across Lo. Tables warmed by footed braziers, the parchment rustling under fingers stained with walnut ink. Fields once fallow under mismanaged lords, now yielded golden wheat that filled granaries to bursting, their thatched roofs echoing with the shovels of laborers singing low work chants carried on winds. From the Ordo's plateau, quirky forgotten facts surface. She instituted night watches in silk, warehouses patrols with lanterns swaying like fireflies to thwart thieves whose greed mirrored the flickering shadows they cast. Her edicts laced with dry wit, steal from the state, and find your hands as empty as a beggar's bowl after alms. Trade flourished, caravans from the west unloading bolts of crimson damask, whose dyes bled faint scents of saffron into bustling bazaars. Daily routines wove a tapestry of meditative discipline, after audiences where ministers knelt on embroidered cushions, their petitions unrolled like awakening scrolls amid the aroma of beeswax tapers. Feng retreated to herb gardens, where paths of crushed gravel sighed underfoot. Attendants plucked fresh mint leaves for tisans, their emerald brightness contrasting soil dark and loamy. Conversations meandering to omens read in tea leaves swirling like autumn eddies. Evenings brought family gatherings in solar chambers overlooking artificial lakes, where Xiaowen, now a youth of 15, with eyes mirroring her jade calm recited poetry. Over platters of steamed fish, drizzled in black vinegar, its tangy mist mingling with laughter soft as distant flutes. Relationships deepened here. Her nephew Feng Run, a scholar whose brush danced across paper like willow branches in breeze, advised on literary academies where students memorized odes by candlelight, flickering over stacks of bamboo slips. Court superstitions flavored these intimacies. Omens sought in the flight of swallows wheeling over palace eaves or the cracks in oracle bones. Heated till they popped like distant fireworks. Feng led equinox rites in 483. Processions winding through moonlit groves where lanterns bobbed on poles. Priests scattering 5-grain offerings, whose earthy scents rose with chants invoking harmony between heaven and earth. Political maneuvers unfolded with poetic subtlety that year as she mediated a rift among Xi'an by chieftains, chafing under synicization nobles trading fur-trimmed cloaks for scholar-s robes stiff with starch, their braids severed in ceremonies smelling of lustral rice wine poured from jade pitchers. Feng hosted reconciliation feasts in halls carpeted with Persian rugs soft underfoot, dishes of braised camel hump melting on tongues, her toasts weaving unity like threads in a loom. By 484, as frost-etched filigree on lotus ponds now barren of bloom, Xiaowen's confidence waxed like the harvest moon. Feng guided his marriage to young consorts from loyal houses. Ceremonies in Phoenix halls, where silk drums throbbed gently and veils of crimson gauze parted to reveal brides whose perfumes jasmine, and musk wafted through air heavy with incense coils. She instilled in him the art of balanced rule evenings spent poring over military treatises beside windows rattling softly in northern gales. Maps marked with red ink tracing campaigns against the Galosh tribes, whose felt tents dotted the horizon like nomadic stars. Quirky anecdote: Feng once gifted Xiaowen a mechanical water clock from Luoyang artisans, its gears whispering time's passage as a reminder that empires endure not by haste, but by the patient drip of wisdom. Borders pushed outward, forths sprouting like mushrooms after rains on frontiers where centuries huddled over dung-fueled fires. Intrigues never fully slumbered. A eunuch cabal in 485, led by one whose powdered cheeks hid venomous ambition, plotted to sway Xiao Wen with falsified ledgers showing Feng as successes, palace expenditures. Tallied in cramped script, she unraveled it through a web of loyal maids whose ears caught murmurs. In steamy bathhouses floored with worn tiles, petals of magnolia floating in scented waters, justice came quietly, demotions to scriptoriums where culprits copied penal codes till eyes blurred, their quills scratching penance into endless nights. Family dynamics offered solace. Visits from her aging mother, whose tales of northern Yan palaces evoked scents of steppe wildflowers crushed under wagon wheels, bridged generations in chambers warmed by glowing embers. Scholarly legacy expanded as Feng commissioned the Yangon Grotto's expansions in 486. Artisans chiseling Buddha faces into sandstone cliffs that echoed with mallet taps, and the drip of subterranean springs, dust settling like fine incense. Her commentaries on the rites of Zhou circulated, bound in ivory inlaid cases that clicked open in scholarly salons scented with ink and aged tea. Philanthropy touched the lowly. Free clinics in 487, where herbalists ground roots in mortars of serpentine stone, treating ailments with decoctions steaming gently over coals. Peasants queuing patiently under awnings rippling in breeze. Twilight deepened in 488, health ebbing like receding tides, yet Feng persisted in counsel. Xiao Wen's bold move southward, planning relocation to Luoyang, echoed her visions of Han assimilation. Debates held in map rooms where pointers tapped rivers coiling like dragons on silk charts. She supported with quiet resolve, outfitting expeditions with supply trains groaning under milled grain sacks. Personal reflections filled private scrolls. Musings on power's illusion, inked by lamplight where moths danced softly against paper shades. As for 89's cherry petals blanketed paths once more, final reforms solidified her marquequal inheritance laws, carved on stels gleaming in temple courtyards, ensuring daughters shared legacies like branches of a single tree. Illness confined her more. Days abed with canopies of embroidered clouds drifting overhead. Physicians murmuring over pulses faint as whispers. Prescribing pearl powders dissolved in ginseng broth. Xiao Wen's visits brought warmth, their hands clasping over shared memories. The air thick with unspoken bonds. Passing neared. Yet her spirit lingered in edicts echoing through halls, where courtiers bowed low, robes pooling like tranquil pools. Legacy bloomed eternal, roots delving deep into northern way soil. But as the final threads of her earthly tapestry wove toward completion, let us linger yet in the hushed sanctuaries of her influence. Circling back to those meditative years of the mid-480s, when Pingcheng's palace gardens exhaled the perfume of late-blooming chrysanthemums, their petals heavy with dew that mirrored the empire's quiet flourishing under Feng's unseen hand. The air in her private library carried the comforting mustiness of stacked scrolls, bound in faded brocade. Pages whispering open to reveal annotations in her precise clerical script notes, on governance drawn from the annals of sage emperors long dust. Evenings there unfolded with the soft glow of alabaster lamps, their light dancing across lacquered shelves as she dictated expansions to the legal code, her voice a gentle current guiding scribes. whose brushes dipped rhythmically into ink pools dark as midnight ponds. These reforms, etched into stone tablets erected in provincial Yemen, where officials read them by torchlight, curbed corruption with clauses as binding as silken cords fines for bribe takers calibrated like scales weighing feathers against gold. Daily rhythms in the inner palace offered respite. Mornings commencing with ablutions in copper basins steaming with infusions of peony root and licorice, attendants' fingers massaging scented oils into skin softened by years of repose. Breakfast trays bore porcelain bowls of bird's nest soup shimmering like opalescent clouds, paired with steamed lotus buns whose sweetness lingered on the tongue like fading dreams. Feng then glided to oversight chambers overlooking the central courtyard, where fountains trickled ceaselessly into pebble basins, their music blending with the murmur of eunuchs relaying reports from distant commanderies. Flood barriers reinforced along the yellow river as bends, where silt-laden waters lapped at wicked dams woven by villagers' patient hands. Quirky forgotten lore from the Book of Way reveals her fondness for inspecting silk looms personally, her palanquin halting amid clacking shuttles and the earthy scent of mulberry-fed silkworms. Praising weavers whose fingers flew like swallows in harmonious flight. Relationships with the young court wove intricate patterns of loyalty and subtle guidance. Xiao Wen blossoming into a ruler whose decisiveness echoed her own quiet steel, sought her in twilight. Solar rooms warmed by sandalwood braziers, conversations over trays of candied hawthorn skewered. Like ruby beads discussing synicization's deeper layers shone by shamans transitioning to Confucian. Scholars their felt drums traded for zither's humming melodies of harmony. Her brother Feng Shi, now grizzled with steppe winds etched in his face, managed frontier garrisons where sentries polished bronze helmets by campfire glow, repelling minor incursions with strategies born of her counsel. Family gatherings and harvest moons featured feasts of roast goose glazed in honey, its crackling skin yielding to tender flesh amid laughter soft as rustling bamboo. Tales of her captive youth spun into parables of endurance. Superstitions and rituals punctuated these bonds. Equinox festivals in 487 seeing Feng lead processions through fog-veiled groves. Priests waving bundles of mugwort whose smoky tendrils purified. The air heavy with anticipation. Oracle consultations over yarrow stalks cast patterns interpreted. In alcoves scented with dragon's blood resin. Portents guiding crop rotations that fill silos with millet glowing amber in lamplight. Political maneuvers reached elegant crescendos that year, as Feng brokered alliances with the southern Qi, through envoys bearing tribute of white deer antler velvet and rolls of Pingcheng satin soft, as whispered secrets treaties sealed with jade stamps that clicked satisfyingly into red paste. She outmaneuvered Roran emissaries with gifts of mechanical automata bronze birds that flapped wings over scented oils, charming them into tribute payments that swelled imperial coffers like rivers after monsoons. Scholarly endeavors peaked in 488. Feng endowing the Academy of Literary Excellence, where scholars debated under pavilions, draped in vines heavy with grapes bursting sweet juice. Their discourses on the odes echoing till stars wheeled overhead. Her own treatises on filial piety, inked on finest hemp paper, circulated to provincial schools, where tutors unrolled them amid the chalk dust, and murmur of recitations, inspiring a generation to balance step vigor with hon refinement. Philanthropy extended to widows' hospices, funded with silk levies, where women spun thread by hearths crackling with pine cones, their lives steadied like boats in calm harbors. Quirky anecdote persists. Feng once penned a satirical verse mocking a pompous minister's gaffe, circulated privately among allies, its gentle barbs landing like dew on wilting ambitions, a mouth full of edicts, a mind empty as autumn winds. By 489, as winter's first snows blanketed palace roofs in pristine silence, Xiao Wen's reign matured fully, his grandmother's withdrawal a graceful fading like mist before noon sun. She devoted afternoons to Buddhist contemplation in chapels, where golden idols gleamed under butter lamps, monks' chants droning like bees in lotus hearts, incense spirals tracing paths to imagined nirvanas. Health's subtle decline brought more repose tonics of reishi mushrooms steeped in deer antler broth, sipped from jade cups whose chill soothed fevered brows. Visits from loyalists filled her chambers, with the rustle of brocade robes pooling on floors. Vows of fealty exchanged over platters of preserved plums, tart as memories. Intrigues dwindled to mere ripples. A final eunuch scheme in spring 490 unraveled by her timeless vigilant spies in laundry rooms, overhearing plots amid steam rising from vats of boiling indigo dye. Justice flowed serenely, exiles to border monasteries where penitents chanted through blizzards, winds howling repentance. Family dynamics culminated in tender farewells. Xiao Wen kneeling by her bedside as cherry petals drifted past open screens, their hands linked over scrolls recounting Northern Way's ascent. From Tuobagui's conquests, banners furled now in ancestral halls scented with ancestral incense. Twilight enveloped her fully that fateful summer, illness weaving through limbs once lithe as young willows. Physicians gathered in antechambers smelling of ground pearls and rhino horn powders, murmuring over pulses threading faintly like distant brooks. Feng dictated legacies endowments for Young Gong's eternal Buddhas, faces serene amid chiseled scars echoing eternity, her final days blurred in opium-laced hazes, visions of steppe horizons merging with palace mists, breath slowing to the rhythm of water clocks dripping final measures. Passing arrived as a sigh on the 14th day of the 6th lunar month, 490. Rain pattering softly on tiled eaves like tears from indifferent heavens. Rites commenced at dusk, processions snaking through incense-choked streets, where mourners in white hemp wept quietly, silk banners undulating like spirits ascending. Her mausoleum in Yanggang's cliffs welcomed her spirit. Corridors vaulted with dragons coiling eternally, echoes of dripping waters her eternal lullaby. Xiao Wen's decree of Wenming title resounded, stels inscribed with her virtues gleaming under perpetual torchlight. We've walked Empress Feng's path through centuries, from dust-choked captivity to the luminous heights of regency. Her wisdom a lantern guiding northern way through shadowed vales. Palaces stand silent now, winds whispering her name through empty halls scented with faded incense. Her reforms rippling into Xiao Wen's golden age. Like and subscribe for more such quiet drifts into history's embrace. Comment your thoughts or where twilight finds you listening. fade now into dreams, as dynasties dissolve like mist over ancient rivers. Good night. Hey guys, tonight we drift softly into the shimmering world of ancient crowns, where gold gleams faintly under temple torchlight, and jewels whisper secrets of forgotten kings through the hush of millennial-old throne rooms. Picture the cool weight of lapis lazuli pressing against brows furrowed by divine burdens. Incense curling lazuli from braziers as priests chant rituals that bind earth to heaven. Like and subscribe if you enjoy these quiet journeys through history's veiled treasures. Comment where you're listening from and what time it is there. Settle in as we explore the profound symbolism woven into these regal headpieces. From the double plumes of Egyptian pharaohs rising like the Nile at dawn, to the horned diadems of Mesopotamian gods crowning mortal rulers in shadowed ziggurats. Let the gentle clink of gemstones and the rustle of royal robes lull you, as we trace their stories across empires where power rested heavy as forged electrum, yet fragile as a single misplaced pearl. Breathe deeply now, close your eyes, and allow the slow rhythm of coronation anthems to carry you into serene slumber, where crowns float like lotus blooms on still, midnight waters. First, in the dawn of kingship along the life-giving Nile, the Egyptian Hejjet emerges, that pristine white crown of Upper Egypt shaped like a tall, bulbous basket woven from phantom reeds that once bowed to the river's flood, carved from linen-wrapped leather or hammered silver that caught the sun's first rays. Like desert dew, it symbolized the fertile south, its gentle curve evoking papyrus swamps, where ibis birds waded silently at twilight. Pharaohs donned it in temples scented with myrrh and natron, the crown-s linen folds brushing cool against sweat-dampened scalps during rituals, where priests poured libations of dark beer foaming softly over altars of rose granite. The Hejjet whispered of Horus, the falcon god whose eyes pierced the horizon, granting the wearer dominion over floods that turned barren sands to emerald fields, heavy with barley swaying in warm breezes. Imagine Nama, that primal unifier around 3100 BCE, first uniting the two lands under its shadow, his palette etched with the crown's stark profile. Palette itself smeared with the faint, ochre scent of Nile silt still clinging after ages. Yet symbolism deepened, white for purity, like the desert's endless calm, a bulwark against chaos where crocodiles lurked in papyrus thickets, their scales glinting under moonlit ripples. Its counterpart, the red deshret of Lower Egypt, sloped low like the delta's fertile mud baked under relentless sun, crafted from red leather or copper chased with electrum threads that hummed faintly when touched, worn alone by rulers like Snefru, whose pyramid slopes mirrored its angle it embodied. Set's fiery domain, the black soil yielding emmer wheat threshed by peasants, whose sickles whispered through golden stalks at harvest's hush. Coronations in Memphis saw the deshret lowered slowly onto anointed heads, slick with sacred crocodile fat, its weight a reminder of earthly power tethered to the gods' caprice. Quirky failure shadowed these. One hapless kinglet in the Middle Kingdom, brow to narrow, saw his deshret slip comically during a festival, tumbling into the lap of a bemused high priest amid stifled gasps, and the ironic clatter of spilled incense grains, subtle reminder that even divine headwear bowed to mortal flaws. But true potency bloomed in the pshent, the double crown fusing Hedget and Deshret into a towering union. Striped red and white like the two lands reconciled. Pharaohs like Ramses II paraded it in hypostyle halls, where columns soared like bundled papyrus stems. Shadows pooling deep as priests swung censers, releasing Kifi incense-honeyed raisins, and wine mingling in sweet, heady clouds. Gold Uraeus cobras reared from its brow, eyes of carnelian flickering like embers, spitting symbolic fire to ward off foes, while ankhs dangled cool against foreheads furrowed. By statecraft, symbolism layered thick, duality of flood and desert, life and death. Horus uniting Osiris's scattered limbs in eternal resurrection. Burial sealed it eternal Tutankhamun's golden pshent nestled in his sarcophagus, its inlays of glass and faience gleaming faintly through resinous darkness, accompanied by spells from the Book of the Dead murmured over canopic jars sealed with wax scented. Like dessert rose, sensory heft pressed on brows duringst festivals. Renewals where dancers swayed with sistra chimming softly. The crown's rigidity a meditative anchor amid swirling linen skirts, brushed by torch flames. Across the Nile's bend, rituals amplified this. The Hebst Jubilees saw pharaohs run stylized races under the pshents. Gaze, legs churning dust that clung to oiled calves. Crowds hushed as oracles read falcon flights overhead. Trade secrets flowed from Pantebni imported on reed boats groaning under ivory tusks. Lapis from afar ground into paste that cooled fevered skulls. Usurper tales add wry whispers. Horemheb, that soldier king, reforged crowns from smashed Amana relics, hammering Akhenaten's solar discs into obedient serpents. A subtle sarcasm in history's forge, where old symbols bent to new brows. Power myths clung, the crown linked wearer to a solar barge drifting eternal rivers of stars. Its shadow lengthening over obelisks pink with dawn. In shadowed valleys of Thebes, queens like Hatshepsut donned modified pshents, with vulture capes trailing like night winds, their forms carved eternal in carnix drifts of incense ash. Meanwhile, in the cradle of cities between Tigris and Euphrates, Mesopotamian horned crowns rise like ziggurat steps piercing dawn mists. Bull horns curling skyward from diadems of chased gold worn by kings claiming godhood. Sargon of Akkad first donned such around 2330 for BCE. Its weighty tines evoking storm gods whose thunder rolled over reed marshes, where herons stalked silver fish. Crafted in Uruk workshops, smelling of molten electrum and olive oil lamps sputtering black smoke. These crowns bore rosettes of carnelian pulsing like bloodied hearts, symbols of Inanna's fertile wrath. Rituals in Eridu temples saw kings prostrate before horned deities. Crowns lowered amid chants droning like wind through date palms. Libations of barley beer foaming into offering bowls etched with cuneiform prayers cool under. Calloused palms, symbolism rooted deep. Horns for divine potency. Curling like Euphrates bends nourishing wheat fields golden under harvest moons. Hammurabi's stele captures his, balanced atop brow as he receives laws from Shamash. Sun gods raise fanning like wheat sheaves. Burial secrets whisper from as royal tomb's Pwabi's headdress of gold leaves, tinkling softly over lapis beads. Nestled beside harps strung with cow guts still faintly resonant after for millennia. Quirky disasters punctuate, One Assyrian prince horns to ambitious toppled sideways. During a parade, crown clanging into a priest's lap like a poorly timed omen. Courtiers stifling mirth amid the ironic bleat of sacrificial goat's head wears hubris humbled by gravity's gentle nudge. As summer faded into Babylonian splendor, crowns evolved with floral motifs, pomegranates of chalcedony dangling cool against necks, evoking Tammuz's resurrection from underworld gloom. Ashurbanipal's library annals note lapis imports from Afghanistan, ground into paste anointing crowns during Akitu New Year rites. Processions winding Babylon's Ishtar Gate, where glazed lions roared silently in blue fire. Power myths bound wearer to Onu, Sky Father whose stars wheeled above observatory towers. Crowns mirroring constellations etched in clay tablets warmed by hearth glows. Sensory immersion peaked in coronations, oils of sesame, and slicking hair beneath gold. Weight-pressing meditative calm as flutes piped airs soft as river reeds bending in breeze. Next, picture the Persian pharaoh, that radiant winged diadem circling Chimenid brows like sun rays piercing Zogros clouds. Darius I immortalized on Persepolis reliefs, with its soft curves framing bearded calm, forged from pure gold beaten thin as dawn mist, inlaid with turquoise from Nishapa mines whose cool depths yielded stones evoking eternal springs. It symbolized Farah, divine glory flowing from Aura Mazda like light through alabaster veils. Rituals at Pasargode saw kings' investiture under open skies, crowns placed amid Zoroastrian chants, rising with Haoma vapors sweet as mountain honey. The diadem's wings fluttering faintly in winds carrying steppe grasses scent. Across these empires, materials whispered origins. Electrum from Thracian rivers, amber from Baltic shores traded silent as ghosts along amber roads. Crowns bore divine claims pharaoh as living Horus, king as Enlil's shadow heavy with myth yet lightened by ritual oils cooling fevered ambitions. The sun sets on Persian splendor, leading us gently across sun-baked plateaus to the Greek diadems. Those simple yet profound bands of twisted gold encircling brows of heroes and tyrants alike, evoking olive groves whispering under Attic moonlight, worn by Alexander the Great as he gazed from Thebes' ruins. The diadem Stephon in fillet form symbolized not rigid hierarchy, but fluid erect. Excellence flowing like wine from amphorae cracked by time's patient hand. Crafted in Macedonian workshops scented with thyme and heated forges, where hammers rang soft rhythms on electrum wires, it tied loosely at the nape. Its knots mirroring Gordian legends, where blades hesitated before fate's inexorable cut. Imagine Philip II donning his amid symposia halls heavy with roast kid, and garlands of myrtle drooping to the band pressing cool assurance, against temples flushed by unmixed wine granting authority, to command phalanxes whose ceresis forestalled like bronze pines. Symbolism deepened in Hellenistic courts, the diadem as Apollo's ray, binding king to divinity. Its gold threads catching torchlight in Pergamon's libraries, where scrolls rustled like dry leaves. Rituals unfolded simply oaths sworn over libation altars steaming with bull's blood. Crowns adjusted by cupbearers whose fingers brushed anointed scalps. Slick with scented oil of spikenard from eastern caravans. Quirky failures amuse from Plutarch's whispers. One Ionian despot brow too ample saw his diadem unravel mid-feast. unspooling into a lap of figs and cheese to the barely muffled snickers of philosopher's royalty. Undone by a poorly tied knot, as if the gods chuckled at hubris wrapped too loosely, burial secrets linger in Virginia tombs. Philip's gold diadem nestled beside ivory masks serene in death's quiet. Oak leaves wrought fine as spring buds, accompanying his shade to Hades' halls echoing faint lyre strains. Across Aegean isles, queens like Olympias wore pearl-studded versions. Strands cool as sea foam against necks arched in mystery cults, where torches smoked pitchy veils. Over Eleusinian rites, power myths tied diadem to Zeus's thunderbolt, wearer as mediator between polis and pantheon. Its weight a meditative reminder amid agora debates, where sophists gestured under plane trees, shedding shadows like forgotten arguments. Trade secrets flowed from Colchis golden fleeces spun into threads for royal fillets. Dyed Tyrian purple from murex shells crushed underfoot in Sidon's vats, their briny stench mingling with sea winds. But as Hellenic rays dimmed, Roman laurels emerged from Campanian groves, bay wreaths green and resinous crowning consuls and Caesars in triumphs where crowds hushed under, forum arches dripping rainwater. Julius Caesar twisted his from Apollo's sacred leaves, their bitter oils staining brows victorious over Gauls, symbolizing triumph over deaf laurel as eternal life snatched from Mars' bloody grasp. Worn in Circus Maximus processions, chariots rumbling over sand still warm from sun. The wreath's prickly edges scratched lightly, grounding ecstasy amid roars softened by distance. Rituals peaked in Capitoline sacrifices, victims' throats slit over marble where blood pooled warm and metallic. Laurels dipped in sacred water flowing from Vestal's fountains, cool as virtue's spring. Symbolism layered triumph and purity, they unburnt by fire, defying even Nero's pyres. Its evergreen whisper promising renewal amid empire's sprawl. Quirky disasters dot annals. Caligula's wreath, adorned over-ambitiously with gems, slipped during a naval review, tumbling into the Tiber amid splashes, and the emperor's undignified frail little gemstones winking. Farewell like mocking stars, a subtle poke at divinity's precarious perch. Augustus refined it to civic crown of oak leaves for saving citizens, heavy with acorns symbolic of fruitfulness, worn over togas starched stiff with flour paste in Senate sessions smelling of oiled cedar benches. Burial rites interred emperors with radiant laurels Hadrian's stone effigy at Tivoli, wreath carved eternal against rain-washed porphyry, guarding his soul's ascent to starry concilium. Power myths bound wearer to Jupiter Optimus Maximus, bolts crackling from temple pediments gold-leafed and gleaming. Sensory heft pressed during ovations, leaves camphor tang inhaled deeply. Thorns pricking meditative focus amid trumpets' mellow brass echoes. Trade from Epirus groves sustained supply. Mule trains groaning under bundled branches fresh with dawn's chill. Meanwhile, in shadowed valleys of the Indus, Indian Kana Patavos ornament crowns adorn Mauryan brows like river pearls. Strung on gold wires curving gracefully toward sideburns, evoking Ganges mists at dawn. Ashoka, post-Kalinga remorse, wore simplified bands of repousse lotus petals symbolizing Dharma's bloom. Crafted in Pataliputra ateliers, where smiths hammered over anvil songs blending with monsoon drums. Symbolism rooted in Dharma, wheel motifs dangling cool against cheeks. Spokes turning eternal cycles of karma, like prayer wheels in Himalayan winds. Rituals in Sonchi stupas saw kings circumambulate relic mounds. Crowns catching incense from terracotta lamps flickering orange. Petals brushing shoulders draped in fine muslin translucent with river damp. Across Deccan plateaus, Sattavahana queens donned tiered kana pata with granulation beads tinkling softly. Moonstones from Travancore mines glowing milky under temple oil lamps. Quirky failures from Tamil Sangams. A Chola princess overjeweled patter snagged on a temple idol. During Puya yanking free with a clatter of pearls scattering like startled doves royalties sparkle. Humbled by divine indifference priests sweeping gems amid chants unbroken. Power myths linked crowns to Vishnu's discus. Wearer as Chakravartin universal wheel turnerates spin mirrored in coin dies stamped crude yet potent. Burial hoards from Taxila yield gold pattern nestled beside punch-marked silver. Lotus chains oxidized green as patternade bronze, accompanying souls to Yamaloka's quiet halls. Sensory immersion. Pearl's naked coolness soothing brows fevered by Roger Dharma's burdens. Gold warmed by ritual ghee flames. Trade via Fireplace routes brought coral from Red Sea. Strung into fringes whispering against silk turbans. The sun dips lower, guiding us to Chinese Myanguin. Those towering ritual crowns of 12 jade pendants swaying like willow fronds. From lacquered beams, worn by emperors in Forbidden City precursors amid Beijing's dusty winds. Qin Shi Huang's terracotta legions guarded replicas. But living Myanguin bore 12 Bazi pearls symbolizing 12 months' harmony, clinking softly during ancestral sacrifices. Where oxen load distant over braziers smoking sandalwood curls. Symbolism embodied Tianming heaven's mandate jade's cool translucence. Channeling chi like mountain streams frozen mid-flow. Rituals in ancestral halls saw crowns lowered via silk cords amid eunuchs' murmurs. Pendants brushing cheeks anointed with camphor oil. Wait meditative as zazen under pagoda eaves. Quirky lore from Tang annals. Empress Wuzishan's Myanguin. Laden with phoenix feathers dyed crimson. Shed during a storm procession. Plumes drifting like confused souls imperial vanity plucked bare by heaven's sigh. Ming emperors refined with dragon pearls from eastern seas. Iridescent orbs glowing against vermilion robes stiff with gold thread. Across Himalayan posses, Tibetan crowns fused with lotus caps. Turquoise inlays from Lhasa mines cool as glacial melt. Symbolizing Kalachakra's wheel amid monastery bells tolling velvet dusks. Power myths tied wearer to jade emperor. Pendants chimming cosmic order. Drifting westward to Mesoamerica, Mayan jade mosaic headdresses rise from Yucatan cenotes. Quetzal feathers iridescent green cascading like waterfalls from Tikal temple crests. Pakal the Great of Palenque war mosaic circlets of nephrite carved into glyphs. Pulsing ancestral blood, feathers rustling soft as jungle breezes heavy with orchid perfume. Symbolism wove May's god cycles jade as life force, feathers sky bridges to Itzamna's starry vault. Rituals atop pyramids slick with copal incense saw crowns affixed amid conch shell blasts. Echoing vaporous valleys, jade's chill anchoring shamans in trance dances where drums throbbed like heartbeats unearthed. Quirky codex tales, A post-classic lord's headdress toppled into a C-note during solstice rite. Feathers floating mockingly as priests dove futilely divine mockery via gravity's watery grin. Aztec emperors donned turquoise diadems with heron plumes, symbolizing Huitzilopochtli's fire arrows. Burial secrets from Monte Alban tombs yield shell-inlaid crowns nestled with jade masks. Serene in limestone crypts dripping eternal damp. Sensory sway, feathers downy brush. Jade's unyielding coolness meditative amid bloodletting's copper tang. Feathers settle softly now, drawing us deeper into the Andean heights, where Inca Maca crowns encircle brows of Sopa. Incas amid Cusco as terraced mists, golden plumes radiating like Inti's dawn rays over sacred valleys heavy with potato blooms, and quinoa swaying in Andean zephyrs. Atahualpa wore his Incayamaca's shadowed plazas the Lao-Tu headband of fine wool dyed crimson, with cochineal twisted tight, topped by a royal fringe of red tassels, swaying gently like blood drops frozen mid-fall symbolizing solar lineage, binding earth to Tawantinsuyus for winds. Crafted in temple ateliers scented with burning coca leaves and molten tumbaga alloy. The crown's gold visor gleamed cool against foreheads anointed with chicha corn beer foaming from clay pitchers. Rituals on Coricancha's gold-plated walls saw emperors receive the Maca Ipica. Amid waka chants droning low, plumes catching torch smoke curling upward like prayers to Pachamama's quiet womb. Symbolism pulsed with cosmic order. Tassels for the sun's life-giving gaze. Fringe-evoking maize silk heavy, with kernels threshed by bare feet on packed earth. Quirky chronicles from Garcilaso whisper of Huayna Capac's crown snagging on a litter canopy. During mountain procession, tassels unraveling in gusts till the Inca dangled comically like a puppet, with severed strings imperial poise unraveled by Andean whims. Attendants stifling or mixed mirth amid the ironic bleat of sacrificial llamas. Burial secrets from Poruchuco tombs yield miniature or replicas nestled beside spondylus shells. Cool as ocean depths, accompanying mummified lords to Hainan Paca's starry realms, where condors wield eternal power. Myths crowned the Sopa as Inti's son, Maca channeling Viracocha's creative fire. Its weight meditative during Capacoca child sacrifices atop peaks, where winds howled thin air, scented with pine resin. Trade from coast brought emeralds strung into fringes. Green fire flickering against bronze skin in moonlit plazas echoing panpipe airs soft as valley fog. But as mountain suns dip, we circle back to forgotten fringes, Scythian nomadic crowns of layered gold plaques stamped with stags leaping eternal steps, buried in kurgans chilled by Siberian winds. Philip of Macedone's Thracian allies wore such. Plaques tinkling softly over felt caps during cavalry charges, where horse sweat mingled with steppe grass crushed under hooves. Symbolism evoked Artemis's wild hunt, gold leaves curling like antlers against windswept brows. Rituals around campfires, where shamans burned mugwort spirals reading futures in bone cracks, popping like distant thunder across Celtic mists. Torques twisted into crown-like collars encircled druid kings' necks in Anglesey groves. Silver alloys hammered thick as vows, symbolizing talk of earth spirits binding warrior to Sidda realms. Boudica's rebels twisted. There's fiercer, torques gleaming under torchlight as chariots rumbled Roman roads. Their silver bite a meditative vow amid woad-scented war paint. Quirky Iron Age bog finds. One chieftain's talk, over-twisted in forge haste, snapped mid-festival, coiling uselessly like a serpent shedding skin to soon royalty's grip loosened. By Smith's impatient hammer, drifting to African soul, Axumite crowns of Axum rise from Ethiopian highlands. Golden diadems inlaid with ivory from elephant tusks curving like crescent moons, symbolizing moon god Moram's nocturnal watch over obelisk's piercing acacia savannas. Aizana war, his converting to cross yet retaining pagan fringes. Ivory cool against brows furrowed by Red Sea trade winds, carrying frankincense resin. Rituals in Debre Damo monastery saw crowns blessed with Tej honey wine bubbling golden. Diadems swaying amid deacons' chants, echoing cliff faces. Meanwhile, in Japan's shadowed archipelagos, ancient Magatama crowns comma-shaped jade beads strung into loops encircle Yamato emperor's brows. In ice shrines where rice paddies exhaled steam at dawn, Jimmu Tenno legend claims the first jade orbs pulsing ancestral kami essence. Cool beads brushing cheeks during Kagura dances with bells tinkling like mountain streams. Symbolism wove three treasures mirror, sword, Jewel Magatama channeling Amaterasu's dawn light through Shinto mists. Across Korean peninsula, Goguryeo crowns of gold tree motifs branch skyward from Baekje tombs, symbolizing world tree bridging heaven-earth. Leaves of chaste filigree rustling faintly in burial silk. Quirky mural tales, a Scylla king's crown tilted absurdly during hunt. Tree branches snagging royal hair till he resembled a toppled pine divine, arboreal humor in. Frescoes faded by tomb damp. The sun arcs toward twilight, lingering on Hittite horned tiaras from Anatolian plateaus. Bronze tines curling like Taurus rams over Hattus's lion gates. Supayuyama donned his in-storm god temples scented with pine boughs. Horns evoking tar hunts, thunder rolling over wheat fields golden as ripened emmer. Rituals poured. Libations of mulled wine steaming copper bowls. Tiaras heavy with divine fury tempered by meditative calm. Burial hordes from Alaka-Hayek yield silver crowns with stag horns branching eternal hunts. Nestled beside writer of chaste silver cool as mountain springs. Power myths bound wearer to Telepinu vanishing god. Crown restoring fertility when rains returned pattering on thatched roofs. Further afield, Olmec jade celts hafted into headdresses from La Venta mounds. Serpentine mosaics pulsing jaguar power amid Gulf Coast mangroves heavy with Seba sap. Rulers pierced brows for blood rites under colossal heads staring vacant eternities. Jade's chill anchoring visions where May's spirits danced in vaporous halls. As one era's gleam fades, Celtic gold lunulae crescent brows in Irish bogs, lunate bands symbolizing moon cycles over. Newgrange passages where winter solstice pierces stone alignments. High kings wore them in terror assemblies, gold warmed by half fires crackling peat smoke. Crescents evoking otherworld bridges, quirky bog body whispers. One chieftain's lunula, corroded thin, crumpled under helmet weight during bog crossing, sinking moon-like into peat royalty eclipsed by Earth's patient swallow. Across Nubian Nile reaches, Meroitic crowns blend Egyptian pshent with ram horns curling Amon's authority. Queens like Almanirides wearing towering array over Meroe's pyramid fields, baking under Sohelian suns. Ivory and gold fused cool against brows during lion hunts were arrows. Whistled reeds, rituals in the potted temples poured palm wine foaming dark. Crowns swaying amid sistrum rattles evoking Isis's veil. Symbolism merged Horus Falcon with Ram Vigor, where a bridging desert oases. Twilight gathers these threads, weaving toward final reflections where crowns dissolve into dust motes. Dancing temple sunbeams, their symbolism eternal whispers across silenced thrones. Twilight deepens over these distant horizons, circling us back to the intricate web of crown symbolism, where materials themselves whisper divine secrets gold from Nubian reefs hammered thin as dawn. As first light, its eternal gleam evoking sun gods sailing celestial rivers, lapis lazuli from Badakhshan mines ground into ultramarine paste that cool fevered brows like glacial tears in imperial forges scented with charcoal and myrrh, electrum, that pale alloy of gold and silver from Thracian streams. Caught torch flames in undulating waves on Persian Ferra, symbolizing moon-sun duality binding night to day in Zoroastrian fire. Temples where Haoma juices steamed sweet vapors. Jade, nephrite veins pulsing green life from Chinese mountains, carved into Mayang wind pendants that clinked softly like temple bells. Channeling chi through meridians as emperors meditated amid pagoda pines exhaling resinous calm. Sensory immersion peaked in anointings, oils of spikenard and cassia slicking scalps. Beneath heavy bands, gems chill a meditative anchor amid ritual chants, droning like distant bees over lotus bombs. Designs layered myth upon myth Uraeus serpents, rearing fiery protection on Egyptian pshents. Glass eyes flickering carnally in embers to smite chaos. Coiled guardians evoking Wadjet's delta vigilance, where Nile crocodiles slumbered mud-deep at dusk. Mesopotamian horned diadems sprouted bull tines, curling skyward like Enlil's storm breath. Rosettes of carnelian blooming blood-red symbols of Ishtar's fertile rage. Petals dangling cool against necks during equinox rites, where barley sheaves piled high exhaled. Earthy harvest breath, Greek diadems twisted simple knots mirroring Delphi's omphalos stone. Fillets of electrum evoking Dionysus vines trailing marble colonnades heavy with grape must, and ivy dew. Roman laurels prickled bay thorns into flesh. Green resilience defying pyres as Jupiter's eternal verdant vow. Leaves camphor tang inhaled deeply during Capitoline vows steaming sacrificial steam. Across realms, feathers whispered skyward bridges Mayan quetzal plumes iridescent as jungle dawns cascading from jade circlets. Each barb symbolizing its Zanna's world, tree-piercing vaporous canopies, where howler monkeys called. Velvet dusks, Inca Marcaipica tassels swayed blood-crimson fringes, like Inti's life rays. Wool-dyed cochineal evoking sacrificial hearts offered atop terraced peaks. Windswept with Ichu grass, Indian Kana pattern dangled lotus chains curving graceful as Ganges meanders. Pearl orbs nacre cool pulsing Dhamma wheels turning karma as silent cycles amid monsoon temples. Slick with ghee lamp soot, rituals bound wearer to cosmos. Egyptian Hebst races under pshent gaze. Pharaohs sprinting dust clouds clinging oiled limbs. Sistra chimming renewal as crowds hushed under Theban cliffs. Echoing Nile murmurs, Mesopotamian Akitu processions wound Babylon's glazed gates. Horned kings prostrating before Marduk statues gold-leafed and gleaming. Libations foaming date beer into lapis basins cool as starlit Euphrates. Greek symposia oaths twisted diadems tighter amid crater splashes of unmixed wine. Staining marble floors, philosophers nodding sage approval under myrtle garlands drooping dew. Roman triumphs rattled chariots over circus sands. Laurels dipped vestal waters pure as virtue's spring. Trumpets mellow brass fading into forum arches dripping mossy rains. Power myths crowned mortals divine. Pharaohs as Horus incarnate. Brows heavy with Pshent uniting to land's flood desert duality. Shadows lengthening over obelisks pink with Ra's kiss. Persian kings channels of Aura Mazda's Farah. Pharaoh wings fluttering winds carrying step purity to Persepolis reliefs eternal. Chinese emperors Qianming vessels. Maiyangwen jade pendants chimming heaven's harmonious 12 amid forbidden precursors vermilion. Harsh, Mayan jaws as May's gods reborn. Jade headdresses pulsing ancestral blood atop pyramid stairs slick copal trails. Usurper stories add wry threads. Egypt's Horemheb reforging Akhenaten's solar discs. Into obedient Yare. Hammers ringing ironic anthems over smashed Aten relics smelling of desecrated myrrh. Roams. Vitellius snatching Otho's laurels in bloody forum scramble. Wreath prickling brow fevered by ambition's sweat amid Colosseum precursors roars. India's Pushyamitra Shunga seizing Mauryan patter. Lotus petals crushed under chariot wheels crunching palace gravel. New Dharma wheels spun from old gold. Burial secrets seal eternities. Tutankhamun's golden pshent in resinous sarcophagus dark. Fiance inleys whispering spells over canopic natron drifts. Virginia's Philip diadem oak leaves. Fine as sprung buds beside ivory masks, serene oak-scented tomb hush. As Pwabi headdress gold leaves tinkling lapis beads. Harp gut faintly resonant for millennia damp. Palang's packle jade mosaic serene limestone crypts dripping C-note vapors. Putzal down powdered time's patient dust. Quirky failures punctuate hubris. Babylonian princes. Horned crown toppling ziggurat steps. Tyne's clanging priestly laps amid goat bleats ironic gods subtle nudge via gravity's yom. Hellenistic tyrants diadem unraveling feast figs. Philosophers snickering knotless royalty. Aztec lords turquoise headdress C-note plunge. Plumes floating shamanic mockery amid conch whales unbroken. Trade secrets sustained splendor. Lapis caravans bedaction camels groaning Nishaba turquoise. Electrum Thracian barges Pontic waves. Amber Baltic ghosts amber roads silent. Coral Red Sea strung Indus fringes. Pearl Gulf divers breath holding naked depths. Jade Khotan rivers silting imperial Maiyangwen. As shadows pool deeper, African crowns emerge full of great Zimbabwe golden talks, twisted granite enclosures bird motifs. Carved soapstone cool symbolizing evil spirits soaring Mayombo woodlands, heavy ironwood scent. Axamite ivory diadems, crescent morum moons over obelisks, frankincense coasts wafting resinous. Trades. Celtic lunulae bog gold crescents, terra assemblies peat hearth crackle. Moon bridges Sid whispers new grained solstice pierces alignments, winter light shafts. Scythian stag plaques, Kurgan gold, leap steps, horse sweat, grass crush, eternal hunts, shaman. Mugwort spirals. Hittite tiara horns, Taurus rams, Hattusa lions, pine libations, mulled copper steam. Olmec celts, jaguar serpents, lavender mounds, mangrove ceiba sap, colossal stairs vacant. Japanese magatama jade loops eyes, rice steam, kagura bells, komi dom. Korean tree crowns, bekchi tombs, world bridge filigree rustles. Threads converge twilight, where crowns dissolve sunbeams, dust motes temple hush. Symbolism eternal silenced thrones whispers. We've worn these crowns through millennia of power and mystery. From Nile reeds to Andean plumes, their gold whispers and jade chills binding earth to stars in rituals soothing cadence. Palaces stand empty now, winds sighing through vacant throne rooms scented faded incense. Symbols rippling timeless across forgotten brows. Like and subscribe for more quiet drifts into history's luminous veils. Comment where night finds you listening. Fade gently into dreams. As crowns settle like dew on lotus leaves over still, eternal waters, good night.